great-grandfather were all from Krakow. We are from from Krakow. I lost my parents at my very young age. My parents, both of them, passed away when they were in their 40s. I was 6 years old when I lost my mother. I was 9 years old when I lost my father. We were 8 brothers. We had no sisters. My oldest brother was born in 1910. My oldest brother, I say brothers because they were twins. They were born in 1910. When my father passed away in January of 31, my oldest brother was a little over 20. And parents we didn't have, but we were considered comfortable people. Our father left us a business that everyone was afraid that the business would go down the drain, and it wasn't the case at all. I may say the other way around. Business even improved afterwards. They were young boys, they started working hard. We were sitting in Shiva. I wasn't sitting in Shiva because I was 9 years old when my father passed away. So all the Sochim, when they came to us to pay a condolence call. But I didn't say that my father had a father. That he, in other words, he lost his son in his life. As a matter of fact, he had 2 sons. He lost them both before the war. My father passed away in January of 31. A couple of years later, he had another brother, another son. My father had another brother that he also passed away. It was 3 or 4 years before the war. We were sitting Shiva, all the Sochim, the people, the business people that business to us. My grandfather was a Yiddish. He was a comfortable person. He was considered a rich person. He guaranteed the people they should keep on giving us merchandise, that he guarantees if we wouldn't pay, that he would pay. But it wasn't necessary at all. Just they felt more comfortable probably to continue the business. And we had nice, as I said, we lived comparatively, as life was in those years, comfortable. My oldest brother got married in 1935. Matter of fact, had a wife and 2 children. And then his twin brother got married 2 years later. He also had a wife and 2 children. Then the 3rd brother also was married. In other words, I had 3 brothers married before the war, which they did not survive. Lost 5 brothers in the war. As I said before, I am from Krakow. Krakow was a big city. My estimation is that generally there lived, Krakow was a population of around 300,000 people, as far as I remember. There were about 60,000 Jewish people in Krakow. Krakow was from hundreds of years, a Ir Yisrael, if I may say so, means there were a lot of Jewish people lived there. The Ramu, if everyone knows who the Ramu was, he was installed about Shin Lamed Beis, which is about 450 years back. When he wrote letters, he said, Ir Yisrael, Krakow, that even those years, there was a big city for a lot of Jewish people lived then in Krakow. Speaking from Krakow, I remind myself now, the Ger Rebbe, the Emre Emes, married off his grandson, if I remember correctly. By the way, he survived the war. He's not alive now anymore. He was Rab Noach Yoskovich. He got married to the Zalshitzer Rebbe's daughter. He lived in Krakow. If I know correctly, I was told that time that Ger Rebbe was never in Krakow, only this time. Thousands and thousands of people came from all around Krakow to be this Shabbos in Krakow. And Krakow used to live before the war, the Zeidy R Avrohom. Zeidy R Avrohom was a son of the sons of the Divrei Chaim. When the Emuna, the Ger Rebbe, came to the Zeidy R Avrohom to pay him a visit, so the Zeidy R Avrohom, he wanted to show off his city, Krakow. Ger Rebbe, what do you say to our city? It's not a nice Chassidish city with Yidden Talmidei Chacham, the learned people. I was told, of course I wasn't there, but I was told then that Ger Rebbe answered him, "You're doing me a favor, there is Parnusa Berevach, people live well, they have, and they're holding on to the Torah. You come to our towns and cities where there's so many poor people, and they don't have the money to live over the days, and they're still holding on to the Torah mitzvahs. This is something more to be proud of." No, but the reason why I'm telling you just to show off that the Krakow was considered a very Chassidish state. By the way, speaking from Krakow, maybe this doesn't have to do anything with the war. Happened in Krakow something very, very unusual thing that you may be interested in it to hear. In Krakow was there over my times with the name Rabbi Yosef Nehemiah Kornitzer. He was a son of Rabbi Kiva Kornitzer. The Rabbi Kiva Kornitzer was Rosh Bezen in Krakow. He was a son, and the Rabbi Kiva Kornitzer was a son-in-law from Rabbi Shimon Sofer. Rabbi Shimon Sofer was a Rav in Krakow about 100 years back. He was in the time from the sons of Rav. The Rabbi Shimon Sofer was a son from the Chassam Sofer, Preshberg Rav. I don't have to say no one who the Chassam Sofer was. Now I just want to say who this Rabbi Yosef Nehemiah was. The Rabbi Yosef Nehemiah passed away after a short time, after a couple of years being the rabbi from Krakow. I don't know exactly how many years, but 8, 9 years or so. He passed away on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, which is Lamed Nisan, Tatzad Gimel, which this was 1933. After his departure, after he passed away, was a dying in Krakow, Zekelchinov. He was before he became dying in Krakow. He was a Rov. Zekelchin is a very small town, not far from Bobov's sons, Tarnov. He became dying because there was a big Talmid Chochem. You had big yichas. He became a Rosh Bezen. A year later, a little less than a year, in Chol HaMaot Pesach, he passed away. I remember that today's Baba Varov, so Levin Gesundson, he came for the Levaya because the Zekelchin Rov, he was considered himself a Baba Vachoset. So the Baba Varov with his brother came for the Levaya. It was Erev, it was the 4th day of Chol HaMaot. It was Erev the Undertake Pesach. And the Baba Chassidim wanted to go. In that time, those years, the Baba Varov lived in Chibin, not in Bobov. The Baba Varov came in 1932 till 1936. He lived in Chibin. Chibin was not too far from Bobov. It took about an hour and a half going from Krakow to Chibin. To Chibin, whoever knows who the Chibin was a big gun. He survived the war because he was in Russia, and after the war he came to Eretz Israel, and he was one of the greatest rabbis in our times. And he lived in Chibin. And all the Baba Chassidim came to the Lviv and the Zekelchin Rov, which was at that time Rosh Bezen from Krakow, came with the suitcases right after the Levaya to go to the train to go to Chibin for Yom Tov. After that, there was a dying with the name Ramoshe Bleicher, Ramoshe Shmuel Bleicher, but we called him Ramoshe Bleicher. Was a big Talmid Chacham, and he was selected to be a Rosh Bezen. A year later, 3 days before Pesach, he got a heart attack and passed away. 1 year, one after the other. Then there was Shabbos Tshuva. There was a dying with the name of Rabbi Ostovtzer, big time from Rabbi Levin, but we call him Rabbi Ostovtzer because he was from the town of Ostovtzer. They called him Rabbi Ostovtzer. That's how we call him, big time Trochim. When he said the Shabbos Tshuva Drush in the old Krakow Shul, in Europe used to be, they made announcements in the streets. The Chatm Badin Rabbi de Krakow, that he was one of the Dayanim, and no one wanted to be any more Jewish person. He passed away right away after that. Then was another Ramoshe, Rappaport, also passed away. Around after that, there was, and for years I knew this story, but I didn't know any parish. What happened? It just so happened, a couple years back, there are two brothers with the name Shamrot. There are two bachelors. I remember them from Krakow, very Babatische people in Krakow. Chassidische Bucham, they were in Krakow, they know to learn. But they're bachelors for one reason or another. Now there are two very old people. Matter of fact, last Sunday I went to visit them. My estimation is that the oldest was the name Moshe Shamrot. He was born in 1905, rough estimation. The younger brother was born 1908. Now you go figure out how old they are now, because now we are 91. And the difficulty, but I still say that they take care of themselves more or less. How you can imagine how well they can take care of themselves. But they're not in a home. They live in 58 and 17. They live over here. So one of the brothers told me a story. He told me, Avrohom, you may be interested to hear what I'm going to tell you. There was in the Krakow Shtibur a bocher, a young man, with the name Yosef Hillel Goldstoff. But the leadership from the Baba Shtibur didn't like his behavior. He knew very well to learn. He was a Chassidische Bucher with pious and the Chassidische Malbushim. But they didn't like the way he does things. And being they were afraid that he is going to be a bad influence on the other Bocherim, they forbid him to come again to Baba Shtibur. He could not come. If he's going to come, he's going to be forced out. As a matter of fact, he was forced out of the Shtibur. So he could not come in anymore. In Krakow was a Yid Tzaddik. His name was the Zeidy R Avrohom. He had a small Beis Medrash. He had difficulties to have minyan in his Beis Medrash. So the Central asked him please to come to it because he's very short with minyan. He needed 10 people. So he did him the favor again because he still was davening. He didn't become like a goy, but he was davening still. So he came there and he became, and the Central was very impressed with him because he could make believe people that he is one of the greatest. And he knew very well to learn, and he was an interested person. And he had a sense of humor and things like that. Also, these two brothers, the Shamrots, also came to him to help him out with minyan. One day, this Yosef Hillel Goldstoff told him a story, but asked him, please, that I shouldn't tell no one. In Krakow the Beis HaChaim was full. They needed never more property. The Beis HaChaim is, I make explain, is a cemetery. They needed more, and just so happened that right next to the Jewish cemetery, there was a big plot ground, and it belonged to the priest, to the Catholic priest. But the Catholic priest, knowing that the Jewish people needed, they asked a fantastic sum of money, way, way, way out of line. I was a young boy. I wasn't even bar mitzvah those years. That's what I was told. I heard from people. And I know the property very well because it happened that it wasn't so far out of the city. It was very near where we lived. And being that I had parents on the cemetery, very often I used to go to the cemetery. So I knew the plot, but I knew that this belongs to the priest in the Catholic Church. So they had no other choice. They had to take ground in the Prokachim. Prokachim was from Krakow, like a suburb from Krakow. It was considered far away from the yeshiva, from where the Jewish people used to live, but they had no other choice. They made it that time with a wagon. They took out if there was a Levaya funeral. And as you are aware, that if you take a property, make for a cemetery, a Jewish cemetery, you have to make it like Mekadesh, the Beis Chaim. So they decided, if I remember, it was in the month of Shvat. Month of Shvat is around, now we have Shvat, which is January approximately. And they decide for a certain day that they're going to make, and they make a big ceremony. The mayor from the city, which was, of course, a Catholic, and then all the people, the important people, Jewish people, not Jewish people, came to the ceremony. They made a big ceremony. I was a young boy, of course. I had to go to the yeshiva. Of course, they didn't mean boys like me, but there were a lot of people there. So the Sender Shuruf didn't like the date they selected to make the cherish from Beis Chaim. One day called them this Yosef Goldstein, what I mentioned before. He told them, I'm going to give you a cipher, I'm going to give you a book, but you got to promise me that you're not going to open, you're not going to look into it. And I want you to go to the Krakower Ruf, the rabbi from Krakow, that's Rabbi Yosef Nachemi Kornitzer, and tell him to look up. The page will be folded. He should look at it, but you got to promise you are not going to look at it. So he promised. He promised. He takes the book, as a matter of fact, he wrapped it in a paper. He didn't know somebody in the streets would see him that he carries a sefer. He goes over to the Krokerov's house. Comes over there, and the Krokerov had a son-in-law. As a matter of fact, he was, after the war over here in Krakow, he was a Herschel Eisenstadt. He was from Warsaw. His father was a very rich man, but he was a big Talmud Chacham, and he was a very intelligent person. When he came in, and they saw him, so they let know that somebody that wants to see the roof. So the roof, of course, didn't come out. This Herschel Eisenstadt came out, and they said to him, can I help you? He said, I wanted to see the roof. I said, you tell me, and I'm going to say the roof. This is what Rabbi Schleidenstadt said. He said, no, I am with the Shlichus from Sender Shuruf, and he told me I have to be the one to talk to him. So he said, all right, I have to go and ask to see if you can come in. Came in, and a short while he came out, okay, come in. Came in, he gave him the cipher, he told him what the Sender Shuruf told him. He look up. The Krokerov opens up the cipher, looks once, again, and again, and again. He shakes his head and he closes the cipher. And then he opened again, he looked again in the cipher. And finally he closes, he gave it a kiss to the cipher, this book, the cipher. And he tells him, tell the Sender Shuruf, I can't change it now anymore. The mayor from the city is coming. And he counted out all the very important people are coming, made all the arrangements. Would I have known that before, I wouldn't make it for that date. It's too late now, can't change it. He gave him the cipher to go back. And this Yosef Hillel Goldstoff tells the two brothers, the Shammers, while he was telling them the story, ich habe geplatzt. I busted. I was so curious. What does it say? But I promised him not to look in. So he keeps on going. but I want to see it. He talks to himself. He couldn't resist. He goes in one of the houses, sits down on a step. He opens up the book, and he sees that this book says that Hasidim should never be mekadesh a cemetery this and this date, because it's a big danger if they should do it this day to the leaders in the Jewish community. He closes up the sefer and he wrapped it in paper and he brought it to the Senesh roof. He left it and he ran out. He was afraid to face him. That he didn't want to say, he didn't look. And after a while he came and the Senesh didn't ask him. Now I know a parish for this story, which is a Masanura, something very, very unusual. This I wanted to, I thought you may be interested in being, and that's a very unusual thing.
Just tell us a little bit, stop for 1 second. Marty, you want to just hit this? Marty? Okay, wait for Steve. Wait for Steve? Sure. Okay, you got Steve? Okay, Avrohom, could you tell us a little bit about your...
Yeah. As I said, I think I mentioned that before, that I am a Baba Chassid from Europe yet. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather was a Baba Chassid. From today's Baba should live. His grandfather, which he was named after, he was a roof at first in Vishnitsa. Vishnitsa is a small town not far from Bochni. Bochni is a town that was a bigger town already, a little big, between Krakow and Tarnów, between Krakow and Sants, between Krakow and Krenitz, that not far from western Galicia. He was living in Vishnitsa. He had a big yeshiva. And my great-grandfather was his name, Rabbi Yankov Zollman. And my father's father was named Rabbi Obstfeld. And he was a son of La'adim to Rabbi Zollman. And he was a big associate, was the Rosh Kol in Vishnitsa. So he took in a son for his daughters. He was looking for Talmidei Chachamim, Babatish people. And he was a comfortable person. And ever since, we are Baba Chassidim. And Baba Chassidim in Vishnitsa was that time. If I remember, was Talmud Mahai, which I would try to figure out. Talmud Mahai was about 1885. He was before that. It must be like 1800 he became Rav from Vishnitsa. He was Rav, the Eishter Baba Rav, the first Baba Rav. He was Rav in Bekovsk, and then was in Ashpetzin, then he was in Vishnitsa, and then finally he was in Baba Rav. And that's where he is Manichas Kevodah. And after this Baba Rav, this first Baba Rav, the Baba Rav was, and today's Baba Rav's father became the rabbi. Matter of fact, when I became Bar Mitzvah, and those days, as I mentioned before, the Baba Rav lived in Chibin between 32 and 36. And I became Tat Tzaddik Gadol in 1934, became Bar Mitzvah. I went over there to put on the tefillin. He put on the tefillin the first time. And I became Bar Mitzvah there. As a matter of fact, the Baba also, and the Baba was a minhag. They were makbet to have not only 10 people to minyan, 11 people. That 10 people should be, and after that, when I was in the yeshiva already, I tried to search, where's the mikvah? Oh, it says over there that 10 people is enough. Why do you have to have 11 people? I found in Shulchan Aruch and the Bar Haitev, he says, Adaya von Knesset Agdola, that he brings that there should be 11 people. Also, when he was, another thing what they were makbet, that the Magen Avraham says that in the date when you become Bar Mitzvah, that you can be oile, le Torah, can have aliyah. And Baba, if they were makbet, Ed v'yom echad, a demo. I was searching that, and I had to bring this Knesset Agdel, but it says, actually, you should have an extra day to be oile le Torah. I became Bar Mitzvah in Shabbos. And I was standing there, the Baba Roshon himself, he was the Bekor, was reading Shabbos. So the Heilige Baba Roshon asked me, "Du wirst doch Bar Mitzvah hand. Today you are becoming Bar Mitzvah." I said, "Yes." So he said to the Gabbe was Reb Chaskele Rottenberg, "Bar Mitzvah is just to give mafta. You should give him mafta, because mafta can be even a cotton, I can be oil." And I had mafta. And I had mafta because that's why he was makbet that Shvei B'Yom Echad.
What was the bar mitzvah like, and it was basically going to shul and having a kid?
Bar mitzvah that didn't make ceremonies as they're making over here. It was almost, then they were, all right, they gave a little, they gave a whiskey and a piece of cake and a piece of midrash, it was not the first time, but they didn't make a big tzimmes. I remember I said to my bar mitzvah pshatel, by the Peristish, by the boss, and he let me finish the whole pshatel. No one interrupted me. The main thing over here now that a minute was always to interrupt. Over here in America, the people have no patience. Because I don't think that, if there are, very few are following the pshatel. So who has patience? So they finished. They're trying to think. But as far as I remember, it was a minute by a chosen. By a chosen, because if it happens that the chosen wasn't such a Talmud Chochem, after all the mechaton, everyone is sitting there, but a bar mitzvah, as far as I remember, I wasn't the only one. Everyone finished. And it makes nowadays, the bar mitzvah, the boys, don't even know the pshat. They don't have to know it. They know they don't have to know it. All they have to do to start. And to start just a few words, and that's then different. They don't have to know it.
What was the impression made upon you when you went to Chabin, being in the presence of the Rebbe?
This wasn't the first time. I remember the first time I was 10 years old. My oldest brother, my father, just passed away. And the Baba came for summer in a small town, Swasowitz, not far from Krakow. And he was there for the summer. My oldest brother took me along. When I was there, I see everyone, such a happy mood. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Everyone said to one another, mazel tov. I asked my brother, what happened? What is the mazel tov about? Didn't you hear? A Ingel is geboren zu Rab Schlemelen. That today's Baba what we used to call him those years Rab Schlemelen. A son was born. This was Rab Naftula. And I told Rab Naftula that I'm 10 years old. I was 10 years old when he was born. And I told him, you know, everyone was very happy to hear that you were born. So, you know what he told me? Because they didn't know who is going to be, how I'm going to grow up. If they would know, they wouldn't be that happy. And of course, he made a fun joke. I was, I just described this, and where did I learn? I learned that in Krakow was a Talmud Torah. And a Talmud Torah, usually you could go until about 14 years old. I was learning the Talmud Torah. After I finished the Talmud Torah, I went to the Baba Yeshiva. It was a Rosh Yeshiva with the name Rab Baruch Kanengieser. We called him Rab Baruch Kanengieser, that's what we called him. He was a big Talmud Chochem. He was a lovely person. The Talmidim loved him. He was such a wonderful person, besides being Talmud Chochem and a big Yerushalayim. He was so nice to everyone. Everyone's problems he wanted to hear. Never, not he had 7 children. No one survived. First, they took his wife. And I was learning in the yeshiva, and then I learned.
Was it in Krakow?
It was in Krakow. This
you went
was
home at the end of the day.
You
went home at the end of the day?
At the end of the day was like after 9. We had a shul till 9 o'clock. And 6 o'clock we had to be there. As a matter of fact, if you went there 6 o'clock, they wrote down your name, and you had to give 10 groschen knas penalty for being late. But I got to tell you, never pay the penalty, if I may say so. And this was, and then after I went out from this yeshiva, I was learning in Beis Medrash. So it was the older bocherim, the young people, learned with the younger one. Then I had a shiur for myself. And we basically in Beis Medrash learned the whole day. There were quite a few. There were Gerasidim, there were Radomskasidim, Belzachsidim. This was in Babel. No, not the same. Babel had the day Beis Medrash.
You learned the Babel Beis Medrash.
In Babel Beis Medrash.
Describe a little bit like what...
Oh, excuse me, Danny. Full sentences. They were
Okay,
a lot of stuff there.
Sorry. Yes, okay. Describe a little bit about the way that after, besides learning, what did the boys share? I mean, how did they spend? Did they have sudas together? Did they just come together for learning, or they have other
I tell you, and the greatest part of the day, I would say, during the week, was no assembly for learning, unless it came out of Rosh Chodesh, or it came out of Yotzat, from Sanzeruf and Bababaruf. We make a Suda.
You said assembly for learning. You meant for...
We assembly for learning. Yeah, everyone had his chavrusa. And they're learning and doing the week with them. But Shabbos, we had Friday night and the winter days, and the summer was in the daytime, singing together. As you know, the Baba he was a compositor. He made beautiful, beautiful things. He made a Anung for Koreben, Kerem Ulam Valmaya, Yismach Moshe, Yismach Malachas Royem Zemach. That we were singing his Zemarim, what he made. And as a matter of fact, not only Baba Chassidim singing, the whole Western Galicia was singing. And now in our times, they don't even know where that comes from. But everybody's thinking, I was in Bnei Barak just before Pesach. I was passing the Satmar Beis Medrash, they were singing Korban. I'm sure they don't know who was the compositor from this Negunim. Not that they're singing exactly, but more or less they were singing it. I could recognize that it's the Baba Nugum for Korban. And then I don't remember exactly to tell you more details from Krakow. I tell you, yeah, one more thing I want to mention.
Staying on your personal
experience. As I said, we were comfortable people. Parents we didn't have, but we lived comfortable. And my oldest brother decided to write a Sefer Torah in the memory of our parents. It took us so far, was the name Rab Eli Sofer. The Rab Eli Sofer was the Baba Baruch Sofer. He was a big Talmud Chochem near Shemaim. He was writing beautifully. He wrote a Sefer Torah, and in those years they didn't give Sefer Torahs. Us, we give over here because people couldn't afford it. It was expensive. We were the second ones in our Sefer Torah that people had a permanent silver Etz Chaim. The second, there was one a big Oisha, a rich man that he made it, and we made it also. So everyone came to look how it looks, how beautiful it was permanent. And till those years was also that he had to put on a keser just for Shabbos and Yom Tov, that he put on a keser for the Sefer Torah. But our Sefer Torah had permanent the Etz Chaim. Matter of fact,
to that Sefer Torah?
A big one?
Do you know what happened to that Sefer Torah?
Oh, I'm going to come to it. Being that I remind myself, I'm going to come to it. But they made up this gift, the Sefer Torah, on the Yutzat from my father, Olav Hashem. Happened that my grandfather was sick. And when I went in the morning to the cheder, I was sure that tonight we're going to give a Sefer Torah. Coming back, I found out it was postponed, being that Zeidy, their grandfather, isn't well. It's going to be postponed. It was postponed for about 6 months. And then we gave. And I gave it, and then when we gave the Sefer Torah, thousands and thousands of people came. In Krakow, the streets were full of people. When all bottom of the ocean, they came, I came with Sefer Torahs and the hundreds of the Sefer Torahs, because the Baba Shtibel wasn't so near to our house. We passed a lot of bottom of the ocean. And if in every base of Midrash, what we passed with the Sefer Torah, and I came with the Sefer Torahs. And then we made a big soda. And then after the war broke out on September 1st, 1939. As you're aware, it was a Friday morning. I was still in my bed. My older brother came back. The war broke out. That Hitler attacked Poland. That's how it started. It was a Friday. And this already did in Friday night and Shabbos, we didn't already go to the Beis Midrash. Everyone made them in the houses, because the houses were big houses. They were like apartment houses. So we made one of the houses. I don't think that anyone went to the Beis Midrash. It was a big bahala. People were very, very scared. And it took only a couple of days till the Germans came into Krakow. A lot of people started to run away from Krakow. But my oldest brother decided, if we're going to go after a couple of days, we're running away from Krakow, where are you going to go run? They decided not to run. But anyway, the people that ran came back. And at first when they came in, they didn't start with murdering people at first. They were rough and tough, no question about it. Well, how did they used to practice? They came once on a street, and wherever they saw young people, they took them to work. So we were hiding in the houses, not to go out, not to be caught to their work. I remember, but in some places, like Erev Rosh Hashanah in Melitz, they killed out a lot of Jewish people, and they piled them in the Beis Midrash, and they burned the Beis Midrash, and all the sites were a couple of hundred Jewish people there, they burned to death. In quite a few places that I don't remember at the moment to mention them, but I remember Melitz. Melitz was a town also in Galicia. And it started rough and tough times. The stores, of course, they were closed. I remember there was a Rosh Hashanah, because it was a couple of days before Rosh Hashanah when they came in. We made a meeting in the house where we lived on the top floor. It was on the 4 flights up on the top floor. And we made a meeting 6 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock we were finished already. And we had in the attic a hiding place. If they come, we should be able to hide there. At first we thought, only the men, young men have died. Women and children, older people, what are they going to do to children? What are they going to do to women? But we were dead wrong. Like, for this matter, a lot of people you may hear that the young men ran away and they left the wives with the children. But the assumption, after all, they are Germans, but there are people that are, what are they going to do to women and children? Whoever dreamed that they're going to kill women with children, with old people, that they're going to do what they did? That it wasn't anything like it in the history of mankind. So we were finished in Rosh Hashanah first, and had a hiding place, as I mentioned, in the attic. And we were sitting there the whole day, and the evening we went down, we came down. And it became very, very hard. I remember in Sukkot, we wanted to have an asuk with a lilith. There was a Yid Rab Yankel Rosenfeld. He lived in Kshanov, but he had an aunt. This Dayan, the Baba Vorof's son-in-law, Aydem, the outside from Zivik Shene, heißt Rab Yankel Tobo. He's the Dayan. He is a granddaughter. He is a daughter's son. He's named Rab Yankel after his Rab. Rab Yankel was a Yid Tzaddik, big Talmud Chacham, a Kedosh Elin. We were told that he has a esrog with a lulav. How could you? We were afraid to go out. He lived not too far from us. We got up the first day of Sukkot, very early. As soon as we saw that starting a little light, we ran over to his house. He was standing already with the shtramo, with the talis on, with escalator at the door. Whoever came, he gave him just to make a bracha and run. And he gave us the esrog with the lid to make a bracha, and we ran back to hide. But we had the first day we had the esrog. Truthfully speaking, I don't remember what it was the second and the later days. What I do remember is the first day that I ran over to have the esrog with the lulav, the first day of Sukkot.
How did that make it feel? Like just being able to...
Can't imagine. I tell you, at first when I was told that you want to make this, I said, no, that's not me, I can't. There were stories that I never told my children because I don't have to tell you. I always thought that I suffered in the war not less than anyone else. I was 3 Pesachim in concentration camp. I just mentioned that the last time, the last Pesach at the Seder. I never thought of it. It's the first time in our life that my wife and I, we went to our oldest daughter in Flatbush to be beside her. Not that we wanted. Our daughter insisted. They didn't want to come here because they didn't want to make it hard on my wife. So for a number of years, they shouldn't make, everyone makes itself, the Seder. And she insisted that we should come over to her. And she wouldn't take no for answer. At first I didn't want to hear, but well, she insisted so that we had to give in. So we did go over for the first Saturday night. And I mentioned in there we had a couple from Russia. They invited what I never saw a Seder yet. And he didn't quite understand, he didn't know, I think, what's going on, because he doesn't understand Yiddish. For sure he doesn't know Hebrew, he doesn't know how to daven. I assumed that it was very strange to him. But his wife, she understood Yiddish. We could talk to her. I tried. I was with Russian prisoners in the war. Not that I know Russian, I don't. Even from the war, but the few words that I did speak, it's already 40-some years, and I didn't use it. Of course, I don't remember a thing. Maybe I remember just a couple words. So it just occurred to me that 3 Pesachim, 3 Pesachim, I was in concentration camp. And Pesach. 3 Pesachs. I said Pesachim. Yeah. I'm glad that you asked me over the, what am I going to, 3 Pesachs? I said Pesachim. I've got 3 Pesachim. And I don't have to tell you, I didn't have matzahs and I didn't have all the other things. And we ate everything. First thing I did as soon as I came. But let me just go back. I'm going back at the beginning when the Germans came in to Krakow, to the whole Poland. It was hard times, but we still lived. We didn't have everything. We didn't have enough food. Even we still had some money to buy. It was very hard, but we had more than most other people. Well, then they made one day, they made like, how do you say that, no one can get out of their houses. Is a word that just slipped out of my mind. No one could get out of there, only in Jewish neighborhoods. Curfew. There's a word curfew slipped out of my mind. They made like a curfew, and all the Germans, the real SS, came from house to house. I don't have to tell you what they did. And whatever they saw, any valuable. And they tried to find out who is the owner from our store. We had coffee and tea, and we had a lot of things in our store. As I mentioned, that we had comparatively. Our specialty in our store that we had, they called it in German Kolonialwarenhandel. And Kolonial means the things that came from the colonies that they didn't grow, like coffee, tea, and pepper, and all the things what they didn't grow, because they had to bring in, they had to import it. And coffee and tea was very expensive, very expensive. And they forced us to open up the store, and the truck came over, and we had to load the things on their trucks, and they empty it out. Also, when I think all the silver, any valuable what they could find, that's where we have the money. Some, they think what we were hiding it from before. We left, we didn't give everything, of course, but a lot we gave them, because we had to, because if you wouldn't give anything, they wouldn't believe that you don't have. When I say we, my brothers, well, because parents we didn't have anymore. And after that, we started to go on with life. We thought that it would be a safe haven to go out for the big city. That the big city, the Badung, a smaller town, they wouldn't bother that much. So my oldest brothers decided there was a small town.
I'm sorry, before we get to your leaving Krakow, you were going to tell us what happened to that safe throws. That something? Was there anything?
We brought.
Were the shuls closed, or
every shul was closed, and the Sefer, everyone took the Sefer Torahs to their houses, because we heard a lot of people that from other towns that they burned the shul to ground. And Tarnov was a brand new shul, a beautiful shul. Tarnov was a big town. They burned it to ground. Everything was taken out, whatever was available. But it was possible.
What about the ones in Krakow, the synagogue shuls in Krakow?
In Krakow, I tell you, there were 6 old shuls. There was a Ramu shul, and there was the Papa shul. They did not burn it down. The Alter shul, they said there was a very, very old shul. They used to say in Krakow that the Alter shul is written down in the Pinkers, in the very old book, that they had a guest about 1300 years back or 1500 years back with the name of Rab Shaishes me Pompadisa. He came to collect money for Pidyon Shviyim, for the Jewish people that lived there in Asia, in Bovala and Eretz Israel. That's what he used to say. I never saw it, but that's how they used to say. It was a very, very old shul. They said the original was actually, it was straight with the ground. In my times, there were steps to go down. They said that it was sinking in. That's I was told.
But these shuls were allowed to stand. They weren't destroyed.
They were allowed. They didn't stay in the way. And by the way, I want you to know that it was a Ramu shul. The Ramu shul, a very small shul. And by the window from the shul, you could see the Beis HaChaim, the cemetery. And they used to, I don't know, were you ever there? Or you were, so I don't have to describe it, so you know how it was. From the window you could see his kever. And I was over there. A sister, a brother and a sister, then Moki Yosef was there that you could see from the window. The Kohanim used to go in the shul, and from the window they said their prayers, the Tehillim, in the front of the kever. And the Germans made the Jewish people destroy all the mitzvahs on. It was a small cemetery. But on this very small cemetery, the Bach was laying there, which he was a Rav in Krakow. Rabbi Peschel, he was the Rav in Krakow. Tosef Yontov, and the Mas Hashem. It was Arzel and they were Kevorim, but they said 3 brothers that they killed, they passed away with cherish Hashem. There were so many from Gedolah, from Arzel Levona, from Gedolah HaTorah, that I don't remember at that moment to mention. And the Germans made everything to take off the tombs, to take it apart. But when it came to the cave of the Ramah, I was told, I never went back. I was not interested to go back. Once this happened, one didn't happen, the ones that rained, they could not destroy his cave. And as a matter of fact, if you were there, you saw it. It was as it was before the war. Beginning of the war, there was a Dayan, one of the Dayanim, with the name Rab Shapsa Rappaport. And then, after the Krakow Rav passed away, what was his name? Yeah. He had a son, his older son was Rab Shmelke Kornitzer, Rab Shmuel Shmelke Kornitzer. He became Dayan. Rav, there was no Rav after that, this Rav passed away. He became a Dayan. As far as I remember, those 2 went as a delegation. Rabbi Friedrich was one of the very important people in Krakow. He knew to speak Polish very well. It was a big delegation. I don't remember more names. They went to the bishop from Krakow. His name was Sapiecha. S-A-P-I-E-C-H-A. Sapiecha, you pronounce it in Polish. They came to him and they asked him, please, to talk to the authority, to the Germans, that should go a little easier with the Jewish people. As soon as they came into him, he went over to the telephone, he called up the Gestapo that the Jewish delegation is in his house. After a short couple minutes, they came, they took all this whole delegation, they took them away. No one came back. After a couple of days, the Germans, you know, at that time.
Were they looking for religious leaders, or that was just any leaders?
They didn't care. No, they didn't look for religious people. They assumed that these are the leaders from the Jewish people, because as a proof that they came to talk to him, and they came letters that if you're going to send her this amount of money, you're going to get back the ashes. Because everyone gave these the amount what they asked. I don't remember the amount. They sent in the amount and got back the ashes. And the ashes made the Levaya.
This is the religious leadership.
Not only the religious people. And the Meyer Friedrich, he was not a Dayan, but he was the leader from the Jewish community. And it was a big delegation, as far as I remember. I don't remember exactly how many people.
So
But
they held the ashes for ransom, is what you're saying. Yeah, what I would say.
You figure it out. That's, I wouldn't say ransom, because if you wouldn't, that's how they did. I can't figure them out, and I didn't even try to figure it out. They sent back the ashes, and they said that these are the ashes from this and this person. At those times, there was the Deutsche Pünktlichkeit, if you know what I mean, the accuracy from the Germans, if I can translate it from German. But you understand what that means. That it's a fair assumption that these were the ashes, because if they said it, I would assume that, it was, and maybe not. Then we decided to go, I remind me of this story, I just wanted to tell you about this story. Also, I want to tell you, it was, where they got hold, it was a temple in Krakow that Orthodox Jewish people didn't go into this temple. It was an organ, I don't have to tell you. I was never there, and it was very near to our house. They took out the Sefer Torahs. This was the beginning of the war. They spread it out on the ground, and they caught Jewish people, older people, younger people. They made everyone step on it. What should I tell you? Not everyone could resist. There was a family in Krakow, low family, very low family. A family name was Glasman. If one wanted to sell, you know you are a Glasman. That's the worst thing he could tell him. Just describe it to you what the name Glasman meant. One brother was killed before the war because he wanted, he had a fight with somebody, you know, besser Menschen, you know. One of them was better than all the others, but it was a mishpucha bezir, a low family. One of the brothers was there too. As they said to everyone to step on it, this one Glasman, because I want to tell you, Leshvach, this family, this low family, because I'm not out to lower people, rather to raise them. One of these brothers, I don't remember the first name, because I knew quite a few of them. He stopped. Ich werde nicht verschwinden, ich werde nicht verschwächen meine Heiligkeit. Means I am not gonna humiliate the things that are holy to me. So he said, ich werde dich erschießen. I am gonna kill you. He ripped off his shirt. Kill me, and I wouldn't do it. Sure enough, he did. After the Gemara said, Bucher Rabbi Yesh Udem Koina Luma Beshuachas. Rabbi was crying. He said, there are such things that a person can buy his Olam Hab in one short minute, in one short second. If this is not the one, I don't know what is. He killed him, he did not step on the Sefer Torah. Not everyone stepped on it. But there were a lot that they did. Things like that happen many times. When we went to Brigel, which I mentioned was a small town, we want to escape from the big city, thinking that it would be easier, rather possible to live over the war in a small town. They're not going to be after the people in a small town as they are in big town. And when they were talking that they're going to chase out, anyway, all the Jewish people from Krakow, they wouldn't want, they'll make Krakow Judenrein without any Jewish people. So we got ourselves an apartment, a room from my apartment. And we, the younger brother, I was one of the youngest. By the way, 3 of the youngest from the 8 brothers, we survived the war. My youngest brother he passed away just a little over a year ago. And a heart attack, I'm sure that you know about it. We lived in Krakow. We lived in Brigel, I'm sorry. We lived in Brigel, and the oldest brother, he was married, had a wife and children. He remained in Krakow. Then from Krakow, they made a ghetto. Podgórz was a part of Krakow. The meaning of Podgórz means Podgórze. Behind the hill, Podgórze. Górze is a hill. Behind, there were hills in Podgórz. Podgórz was a part of Krakow, but we had to cross a river. And I'm going to come to it while I was hiding in the attic. Not in this attic what I was telling you at first in the beginning of the war. I'm going to in Brigel, in this small town. That over there where I was hiding.
Okay. Oh,
There was a lot more terrifying.
Spend more time there.
Okay.
Okay, we're ready.
Wait a second, where did I stop? Where did I?
You went to the smaller town.
Brigel, yeah. Brigel.
You said, right, yes. You,
Brigel,
went,
yeah.
you escaped.
Brigel.
You felt it would be safer in the small town,
Yeah.
so you went to that town nearby. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Okay, go ahead.
We have to.
After we decided that to look for a place in a small town, the name in Yiddish we called it Brigel, in Polish it was Brzesko. In Yiddish we called it Brigel. The area where he was rough in that town in Brigel. Brigel and Wischnice was like 2 small towns. What I mentioned that the Baba was rough in Wischnice when I first started. There were like 2 small towns together. Brigel was a bigger town. And we were there for a time, and more or less in the beginning of the war, my oldest brother remained in Krakow. And after they made the ghetto made in Podgórz. Podgórz, I mentioned that in Polish the meaning is behind the hills, because there were hills there. All you had to do from Krakow to go to Podgórz to cross a bridge. It was a river dividing Podgórz and Krakow. In my times before the war, it was like 1 town. It was 1 kehillah. And they made over there in Podgórz was the ghetto. All the Jewish people had to live there. So my oldest brother went over there. He wanted still to stay there because over there he could make some money. In the small town in Brigel, if he would come over too, we wouldn't have ever how to live, because he could help himself. So he had like a small business, very small business in Krakow. Matter of fact, they gave him, the Germans, that the bread he had to give out for people on the coupons. Everyone got coupons, and he was one of the people. And whatever he could, and of course, from the business, he could make a living. And I have to say, there was a black market. And that's why the Jewish people helped themselves, more or less, as much as they could. And he sent us money to live on. And, you know, kosher meat, that I don't have to tell you wasn't there, but in the small town, like in Brigel, they could manage to bring a kosher butcher, brought a shochet, and they made a kosher cow, and then divided the meat. And there were some people to look for money. They smuggled the meat into the ghetto, and he made very good money. But if he was caught, I don't have to tell you what happened to him. But still, you know, otherwise they had no other means to live. then they changed their life, and that's what they did. As a matter of fact, one of us here lives over here, Yankel Shaya, he lives here down in Zimbabwe. He was one of the people. As a matter of fact, that he is from Briggle. He was from this small town where we lived, and he came in when he brought this meat, and together he came to the house of my brother, and from there he could go out and sell it. If my brother had to send something to us, he was the one he brought it to us. And it became, in a matter of fact, in Briggle was this marriage, the one that wasn't in the main street was open. We down there, as a matter of fact, we had children there. Until, but one day, without any warning, you could see that cars are coming, trucks are coming, and the Germans are here, and whoever they saw in the street, they killed in the streets. And everyone was running for cover in the hiding place. Everyone had to prepare a hiding place. Some prepared on the attic. In the attic, they make like a false wall. They put a closet. Somehow they managed to, on the ground. Each house had places like that. Well, quite a few times they came, they just in the street. What they tried at first, they got lists, they got hold of lists for people that were going in certain organizations. They didn't care what organization, like some people Zionistic organizations, or the Aguda, or they got hold of this list. And they wanted whoever was on the list to eliminate. Like once they came to, and I remember was the name Moses, they asked him, what's thy name? What's your name? He said to him, they're in the street, they killed them. No, not just one or two, there were dead people all over the place. And then whatever they could, they got hold of people, of young people, they put it on the trucks, took them away. Never heard of them again.
When was this?
This was in 1941 and 42. 42 was worse than 40. 41, if I remember just once, but in 42, quite a few times. Other times, when they were there, you could go in the street. That without anyone, they just came. Then there was a rumor, because they used to make the towns one after the other, Judenrein. Judenrein means clean of Jewish people. And that Briggle is on the list to make to clean up the city. As a matter of fact, once there was, after action like that, it was in Briggle, and my second brother, his name was Israel, he was in the Vishnitzer. So we ran from Briggle to Vishnitzer. We thought over there is even a smaller town and was more on the side. We thought maybe it's safer there. But then, after a couple of days, we went back to Briggle because he didn't have room for us. But in those and conditions that he didn't look for room or not room, you were there. We went back to Briggle until the rumor came that they're gonna, all the Jewish people, they're gonna send away or kill. We ran to Bochnia. Bochnia was also already a bigger town. While being in Bochnia, we heard that, a matter of fact, I lost a brother there, which he was still there. He got married there in the war. And he was from the young people that took away. Never heard of him. I don't know what happened to him. And one of the people that ran there, after they decided to make Briggle Judenrein, was like a Rosh Hashanah time. It was in a Rosh Hashanah. I had an uncle, they killed him in the street in Rosh Hashanah because the Jewish people weren't there anymore. And he went out of his hiding place and they caught him, they killed him in the street. They made like a mass grave. One of the people that they were working on this mass grave, a Jewish man, of course, he saw our Sefer Torah. He himself put it in between the dead people in here. But he knew that if he's going to leave it, what's going to be better. And we never tried, of course, if he put it between dead people, after the war, never went back to look for it. Then being...
How did the Sefer Torah get into the mass grave?
He put it in, this Jewish man.
Where had it been? Was it being hidden?
It was one of the higher houses. He had to take out the dead people. He took out a dead person. He saw the Sefer Torah. While he was there, he was hiding him. And the dead person, he put on the top of the Sefer Torah, the Germans shouldn't see it. And he took the Sefer Torah with the dead person and put it in the grave.
Because he thought that would be the appropriate...
Yeah, he did the right thing. What else could he do? Just to leave it out? So it would be better to be covered.
Was he endangering himself doing something like that?
No, he had to work for them because the Germans made them to work with it, to put all the dead people in the grave, to make a massacre. That's what we were told. We didn't even try to go to back and to look. And besides this, I wouldn't even go where. I wouldn't even know where to look for it. Never went back. I never went back to Poland altogether. After a couple months being in Bosnia, in Brigel was my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncles, and one of my brothers was then really never heard of them. What happened to them? Because we were young people. I was running. My grandfather was 80 years old. So he stood there, he was there, he remained there. Matter of fact, we were told from one of the Jewish people, my grandmother, they told her to go out and to go in the truck. He said, ich gehe nicht. Sie können machen mit mir, was sie wollen. She spoke perfect German. You can do with me whatever you want. I'm not going in no place. He killed her on the spot. Because she knew what's the end, what is he going to go. But my grandfather went, he followed the orders. That was, and after that, I don't know anything what happened to them, and the assumption, if happened, they're not alive, there's no question about it. We know right away that. After being a short while in Brigel, my brother lost his wife and his children. They took away his wife and his children by previous action. He was all alone. So my younger brother, the one that's not alive anymore, and we decided we are going to go back. We'll be together with our oldest brother. We'll be together, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. We're going to be together. And how could he go? You couldn't go no place. You had to be in the ghetto. If you go out in the ghetto, and they kill you, because there's no question to ask about it. So there were people that they took to the Arbeitslager, which was in Plaszow. You heard from Plaszow. Plaszow was a big worker camp. So we registered that we want to go to work to Plaszow. Plaszow was very near from Krakow. This is a suburb of Krakow. And from there, I'm going to help myself to go in together to be with my brother. So, of course, they took us. Then I was 20 years old. So they took my brother and me, and we went on the truck, and they took the Plaszow. As soon as I came there, I had a lot of people from Krakow that I knew. And I said, I want to go to the ghetto. So he tried to explain to me, give me a chance. I'm going to think about how I can send you. Then what had happened that in the office, a typewriter was broken. And there was one man in Krakow, not a Jewish man, a Polish person, that he knew how to fix. And most of the people were over there in the camp, they were not from Krakow or from around Krakow. He said, you have to go to Koletek, this and this number, and this and this street. The name of the street was Koletek. He said, do you know where this is? I said, of course I know. I'm from Krakow. I was raised in Krakow. He said, okay, he's going to give me like a passport from the Oberscharführer. Oberscharführer, like a captain. They had their own ranks. Those SS had their own ranks. They didn't have the ranks like all the other military people. It was an Oberscharführer. My assumption is that more or less like a captain in the army. He gave me a passport that I can go out, even with my band, with the Zion, that I can go out and sit, but I have a passport. And whoever is going to come and ask me, all I have to show the passport from the Oberscharführer. I have nothing to fear. And I felt quite okay. And I took this typewriter over to this place and had to go from Podgórz to Krakow, over the bridge. No one stopped me. They saw me the way I go, that I can go out of the ghetto. I passed the whole Jewish neighborhood. I passed the square, the place where we had the business, and the Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah is the school what the Jewish children were learning. And this Talmud Torah was a big building, 4 or 5 flights. Was a big building. 8,000 to 9,000 children were learning over there in this Talmud Torah. And I passed and what should I tell you? Don't see a soul. Passing this Talmud Torah, I don't hear anything. In going like that, I made a neder to me. A neder is a Hebrew word, of course. I took upon myself never, never, never again to go in these streets in my life. I took over this typewriter, went back not the same way, the other way. I came near the ghetto, and from the barbed wires, more than I was never in Krakow before, in the ghetto I was never before, but I know where this is until I found, and I sent over, and I talked over the barbed wires to call my brother from this and this store. My brother came out here, what are you doing out here? They're going to kill you. So I showed him, don't fear. I can be outside of the ghetto. He ran over to the gate, and he talked already to the also, you see what they did? They made Jewish Ordnungsdienst, mean like Jewish police. Of course, they didn't have no weapon. But over the Jewish people, they had authority. And they were the ones that staying by the gate. Also, Polish police. They wouldn't let out and wouldn't let in. So, of course, he gave him something, and I slid in the ghetto. So I was in the ghetto already, and I never went back anymore to the Prussia, to the again. And I was there, and what should I tell you? It was very, very tough over there in this ghetto. I saw that there was a German with the name Pilarczyk. Pilarczyk is a Polish name. They said that he's a German from Stodetten, Germany. Yeah, over there they had Polish names, and they were Germans. Was he cruel? He went in the street, and then he looked at one, he didn't like them, killed them. Just looking at it, he didn't like this person. Once was one man, a young man, the name was Cherish Abraham. I know him very well from many years. He was a Belzer who said, And this Hershel Abraham, he saw him, he got very scared. He ran in the door and he ran away. He was running after him. He made the Jewish people, you must find him. If you don't find him, I'm going to kill you all. Anyway, they brought him down. They brought him, and just so happened that this morning, I went on this ghetto in the morning. They needed some people to work. They called me to take to work, which had happened many times before. And I was waiting in this yard till they're going to have this certain amount of people to take me to work. And I saw I had to bring the Hershel Abraham, and he told them, Lauf, run. Lauf in German is. And of course he killed them. He took off his hat, this Pilatschik. And of course they took him right away, the Jewish people. And over then I knew a man, Laser Landau. He was a big man by the Germans. His brother was my brother's brother-in-law. I knew him from Krakow from before the war. And I heard that he is in the office there. So I asked one of these Jewish Ordnungsdienst, do me a favor, tell Laser Landau that Avrohom Obstfeld is over here, that they called me to work. He said, okay, I'll try. I don't promise I'll try. Sure enough, he went into the office, he made believe that he has to do something. And he whispered in his ear, you know, Avrohom Obstfeld is outside his coat. So right away he came out with one of the big men, and he took me out. He took me out. And I went back home. Well, all right, I didn't have to go this day, because you never know if you're going to come back. Many times they caught you and never came back. For instance, they took you to work because they thought this and this has to be done. And if this thing was done already, I don't need you anymore. Killed all the people. That's how they used to practice. Then we heard that in Hungary, they're letting the Jewish people live. Hungary was then allied with the Germans. The government, the Hungary government was allied with the Germans. And they let the Jewish people live. Now, was thinking, how can we get to Hungary? There is a man, a Satmar, who said his name was Avrohom Obstfeld. He lives in Monroe. He was born in Krakow. His father was from Hungary. His mother lived in Krakow, but the mother and father were related somehow. He was a Chassidische Yid, had big Talmid Chacham, and he helped out Jewish people a lot, but he was a citizen of Hungary. Being that he was a citizen of Hungary, he did not have to live in the ghetto. He did not have to wear on his arm this band, a Jewish band. He could live outside the ghetto. And all the people, the boys from the camp used to come to them for food. And he made big pots with food to give everyone, whoever came. He endangered his life and the life of his family to help out the people. And his second son, his older son, was learning with me in the yeshiva, in the Baba yeshiva. The second son was this Avrohom Yankel, who lives now in Monroe. He brought us papers from Hungarian people. For instance, I had a paper, Alexander Junger. the Alexander, I was born in this and this town in Morosh Vashahe. I had difficulties to pronounce the name of this town. And this Hone Glanzer, he taught me how to say it. I had to say that I was born there, but I was raised here, because they'll be tell us, why don't I speak Hungarian? But to notice that he used to teach me Morosh Vashahe. There's a town there. And this Alexander Junger, actually a person like that existed. But he was in Russia, in deep Russia, in a working camp. And I had his papers. My younger brother had also the name Junger, but the other name. A Thursday night, this Avrohom Glanzer brings me the papers. It was that time we paid a lot of money. My oldest brother didn't want to tell me in dollars we had to pay. And this Avrohom didn't make money on it. He just wanted to help us out. I don't know till now, because I never asked him. I meet him here and there. He brings me a Thursday night. This was in February, because there was like beginning order base. This was in February. He brought a Thursday night, he brings me the papers. He tells me, out of together you go. I said, out of together, it's Thursday night. Where am I going to be on a Shabbos, a Saturday? He'll be in my house. I truthfully speak, I was afraid to be in their house, because I know what they are doing. So I said, you know what, I'm going to wait till Sunday morning. So he said to me, and what are you sure that's not a week too late? So it's only 2 days. All right, he said, do whatever you want, but I think you should go right now out of together. And I decided against it. I and my brother, other 3 brothers, we had these papers. My older brother, I lost him in Auschwitz. They took him in the gas chambers. And my younger brother and me, we decided, no, we are going to wait till Sunday morning. Shabbos morning, we woke up, and the ghetto was surrounded already. As a matter of fact, it was surrounded by the Ukrainians with the black beret. It was surrounded, and they couldn't get out, they couldn't come in. We saw that this is the end. And I had 2 sets of papers. On one set of paper I had the King Zeidy R Avrohom Obstfeld. The other set, that I'm a Hungarian citizen, that I'm Alexander Junger. Of course, I didn't know what to do. We were sitting and waiting. Then in the afternoon, we were thinking maybe to hide, maybe not to hide, until last minute. Then we saw that the young people, some with their children, never, because as I said, every apartment had hiding place. They were hiding. It was beginning of 43. It was, no, it wasn't really, it was March, beginning of March, because it was Ibayu, it was the other base. Because Sunday was March the 14th. Now I remind myself, it was March the 14th. And this was, Shabbos was the 13th of March. So we decided we go. We saw on the streets, all the older people, the young people, they're left alone. You know the head signs. Ausnitzen der letzte Kräfte, dann vernichten. In Auschwitz, it had a sign there. What that means, I translate it in English. Use them out to the last drop of strength, then destroy them. And we said dead people all over the place. And they took us over to the station from the Yiddish Ordnung station, the Jewish police, what they call. And we were sitting there in the cellar. Because why did they put us there? Because I said I am Ausländer, I'm Hungarian, and they respected Hungarians. But the problem was on the papers, it said Moorish Vashahe. Moorish Vashahe was till 1940 Romania. And the German took it away from the Romania in 1940. They took it from Romania, they gave it to the Hungarians. So actually, if I would be born there, I would be Hungarian citizen. But the papers I had from beginning of 1940, it says a Rumänische Staatsbürger, that I'm a Romanian. Romania they did not respect. They only respect. So they put us in, and I remember that, and the cellar found that it was there, the Wadowitzer roof. He was a Baruch who said, Ayat Tzaddik. He made even $50 for us over there in the cellar. And I don't have to tell you how we spent the night there, knowing what's going to happen the next day. The next day, they took us all out. And the Hungarians, they put in a separate group, and me, they put in all with other Jewish people. So I went over to the Kunda. He was the head of this, not from the Gestapo, he was from the Plasche, he was the main man. And I said, Herr, ich bin ungarischer Staatsbürger. And when I show him that, he takes out his gun. Du bist der rumänische Staatsbürger. And as soon as he takes out the gun, I ran in the door. I ran away from him. And I came out again, and I mixed up with other people and couldn't find me. But he was shooting after me. Over there, what should I tell you? Thousands and thousands of people. Then they made a Krakow Union. There was like the ghetto was divided between ghetto A and B, A and B. A was the people with working people. B was the people, the older people, children that they had no use for it, and took us all in the ghetto B, and it was like a square, Platz Goda they called it. Of Polish they call it Zgoda, Platz Goda. It's a square. What should I tell you? And then behind the buildings, from right in the morning, we heard shooting with this automatic. We heard it without any stop, without any stop. And we had to wind up like four abreast, and to be in line. The women and children, they didn't put out, but men, they made one line. It was the jikve roof, and what the older people, younger people. But before the gate, there were trucks waiting outside. The young people, they took on the trucks, and the older people with the children, they took behind the building to kill them. I remember they brought, there was in the ghetto a place, a building for the Yesomim, but the parents are not alive anymore, or they had to go to work. Just children. Maybe there are 400 or 500 children. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And they lined them up in order, because the Germans has to be in order. And the Germans said that they should stay straight in the line. So my younger brother started crying. Oh, look. We had a little hope. Then we knew that young people, they're going to still maybe take to work. What should I tell you? And they took the children, one after the other. Not one after the other, 4 abreast. And we were also staying 4 abreast because there were so many people couldn't stay 1 abreast. It was more economical. They took less space. Remember one German said on this side, and he goes, "Noch ein Mann, that he needs someone else to help." They go, "You brutal dog. You need more people. You can't handle us." I remember just, he wanted one more German because he wanted on his side. Then they called out from our group people with trade, like a carpenter, or plumber, or shoemakers. I remember was a man with a name, Yisucha Barber, who was standing right next to me. So everyone wanted to be, because we thought to be something, having a trade is a plus. But he wouldn't take everyone. I was the unlucky one. They wouldn't take me. They didn't take my brothers either. This Baba, and the pictures of him, he jumped out, and they were lined up, I don't know, 25, 30 people. Doesn't eat anymore. Then we were told that he brought them over to Plashev, to the camp. He said, and the people told me later, when he thought that he brought Fachmen and, people betrayed. He actually, I don't want the expression, to use the expression what he used in German. Umlegen alle. Kill them all out. We don't need them. They killed them all. This I didn't see. This I was told later, after I met the people. When I was almost to the gate, there was the Mrs. Barber. This Mrs. Barber was my sister, my oldest brother's wife's sister, with her 4 or 5 children. They were sitting waiting for their next. Just sitting waiting because it's not maybe yes or maybe no or maybe it will happen. And over the barbed wires from far, I saw the Poles looking in and to see. It was a very interesting sight to see what's happening over here. In the front of me was a Jewish man with 2 children. He was holding 1 and 2 in each hand. Of course, they told him, "Go to me." So I started again. I tried my luck to say to this German that I'm Ungarischer Staatsbürger. I didn't know what to do. I tried everything. He answered me. Usually they didn't answer. That they're taking us to a camp, and I should tell them in camp that, all right, took us on trucks. Then I didn't see what we all know what happened to the rest of the people there. There were a lot of trucks.
You saw Yekharov? Which road did you say?
Jikivarov. He has a nickel over here on 49th Street, 51st Street.
What kind of impression did he make on you the last time you saw him?
He was a Saganu. He didn't see a thing. He was an old man. And he was calling names to come to help him. But if I would answer him and I would hold him, they would take me with him. And I can't help him. You know what I mean? Because usually if you went with him, that took you too. And he was a few lines in the side, I don't remember, in the front of me. Jike was Rabshitz Einiglich. He was a big Chassidus, he was a big Rufer. Anyway, they took us on the way, knowing the way they take us. I see they're taking us to Auschwitz. Not that you could see because the trucks were covered. And we could not come near the end of it when the Germans were sitting inside. And And they wouldn't let us. We had to push ourselves together to be just in the front that they can keep an eye on all of us. On the way they stopped. They stopped and we heard shooting. We were told later that a few people tried to jump out of the trucks to run away. They caught them all, they killed them all. I didn't even try because where am I going to run? Number one, but this was not enough, but two on each truck to watch us with motorcycles. They went on all sides that no one should be able to escape. They brought us to Auschwitz, and Auschwitz they selected us again.
When was this? What date?
This was March the 14th, 1943. Yeah, this was March the 14th, 1943. That's what it was, yeah. This date I can't forget. It was in a Jewish calendar, Zeidy R Avrohom. Shimelov, I don't know if you know him, he's from Krakow. He was one of our group. We came together to Auschwitz. He's a rich man. He has a business in downtown. He lives in Manhattan, on the Fifth Avenue. I just saw him the other day, last week. I just saw him. For years, he used to come every year, Zeidy R. He used to come that we should celebrate this day. What is this to celebrate? Anyway, we came to Auschwitz. It started quite rough and tough. And Auschwitz the 14th, they put us in this number. 108-254, they call it. Because we had no name. We were just a number. If they called me, they called me 108-254. 108-254. I had another brother had 253, and my youngest brother had 252, because we were standing in the line together to be tattooed. In Auschwitz, no one had a name, just a number, just like cattle. And I tell you, when we first came, no one was thinking of food, but after a day, the next day, you know, just human. But the most what we needed, a drink of water. Not so much for me. I didn't have so much urge for the water as my oldest brother, the one they killed him in Auschwitz. His name was Yankov. So this Shimelov tried to talk to the people, bring us a little water. But no one would, or no one could. So one guy comes over from the people that were from before. Hey, you have a good stiefel. Stiefel means boots. If you give me your boots, I'll bring you a glass of water. Sure enough, he took off his boots, and he gave to Shimelov. Shimelov, he was the one, he was the go-between. And Shimelov took the pair of boots, gave it to the guy, and the guy brought over a glass of water. And for his work, he could, a little water, one swallow of water, he could get the Shimelov. And we were, and with this glass of water, quite a few people had just one swallow of water. Just describe. And it wasn't in the summer, it was in March, it was quite cold yet. Then after the second day, they gave us a little soup. And the Germans were very careful. They wouldn't take us to mix with the other camp to make sure that we don't carry any sicknesses. They would hold us for 4 weeks, not to go out to work. Go out to work, you could go out and work from this camp, from this concentration camp. The concentration camp was not just surrounded with barbed wires, with electrical wires, that you touched it in the second, killed you. As a matter of fact, if anyone wanted to have a first year, I don't have to have quite a few people went over to the wire, touched this. The hair stood up and the smoke came out from the hair. That was the end of him. It was live wires. But to work, you have to go outside the camp, but you were in the peninsula from Auschwitz. Even further up, we were saying you couldn't escape from there. You went under free, but not as much as you overnight. You were in the concentration camp, where the electrical wires were. Every morning, we have to march out to work. You may be surprised to hear, maybe you heard that already, that the music was playing at the gate. And yeah, while we were there the 4 weeks, we didn't waste our time. They told us this military order to stay in line, to march to the drum beat, or where they say, links, links, 2, 3, 4, links, 2, 3, 4, means left, 2, 3, 4, left, 2, 3, 4. When they said left, you had to step with your left foot. And if the one didn't know how to do it, he didn't go to work next day anymore. I'm personally a very disciplined person. I learned it very fast. And if we marched out, and this they thought I made every night after work, appeal. Appell, they called it in German. What it meant was appell, that everyone stood up and the outside of the barracks, and they counted out if everyone is here. And they wouldn't count it just like that. If we stood in order, they could count very fast. And they used to say, Achtung, Mitzen, up. You had to take a step till the count was finished. Then, Mitzen, up. You could put on. They gave orders, and we had to learn this military order. And as we marched out of this camp, they counted out so many people going to work. And the evening, the amount had to equal to make sure that no one escaped. And the music was playing. Musicians were playing music march. And you had to step your left foot on the drum beat. My older brother had difficulty. He had typhoid. And I also had typhoid. Everyone had typhoid in Auschwitz. He had stiff feet. He had difficulties. But somehow I made it. I told him also. He had difficulties. I told him, they're going to kill you if you don't do it. I said, believe me, I can't. But finally, he learned it. At first, my youngest brother had typhoid. And so I helped him out. I tell you, being even in Auschwitz, you couldn't live what they gave you. We helped ourselves. Because the Polish people came to work. They smuggled in some cigarettes, they smuggled in some other things. And somehow we managed to do a little like in the black market, to help us out. I always had a little more what they gave me, just enough for my brothers and me to live, because otherwise they didn't give you enough to live on. And we helped ourselves. So when my younger brother was, yeah, they had like a Krankenbau, they call it. One of the barracks for the sick people. And this was at first, it was in this very same camp. So I could, because while I was sick, he couldn't eat anyway. When he got better, I helped him through the window. I sent him in a little bit. Then my other brother, the one that is not alive, got sick. And at the end, I was sick. So he helped me out. I got sick in Rosh Hashanah, 1943. When you felt sick in Auschwitz, you couldn't eat the portion what they gave you, you know that you are sick. And that's what happened to me. But I was lucky that I had the foreman was a Jewish guy. He was from Czechoslovakia. And I made friends with him. He tried to help me out. When I told him, Adolf was his name, Adolf, ich bin krank, that I'm sick. So he helped me that I had to, he gave me my work to work inside in the ditch, and I could sit. And when the German came over, all the other people told me that he's coming. And I got up and I took the shovel and I started to work. But I couldn't go on like that. And then they sent us over, they made like a new camp. They made everything separate. For the Krankenbau, like the hospital, the Krankenbau was Lager A. Then they had Lager B, C, D. We were in Lager D. Lager is a camp. And then the B was a Tzigayner Lager. Tzigayner means the gypsies. The gypsies, they didn't treat much better than the Jewish people. But the gypsies, they left whole families. Then they took of them, a big bunch of them, and they killed them. But they still treated them a lot better than the Jewish people. And what the procedure was that if you were sick, in the evening after work, you go over and report that I'm sick and I need a doctor's care. But I was afraid to go over to tell them that I'm sick, because I don't have to tell you what I did to sick people. Until I couldn't go on anymore. It happened from our commando, which were 200 people. They worked in quite a few places. One of the groups worked in Lager A. In the German, we pronounce Lager A. In English, we pronounce Camp A. So I asked Adolf, please do me a favor, send me, 20 people only went there, send me there to work, and I'll go to a doctor privately to see what's wrong with me. This was after a nice couple of days I was sick. This maybe after a week I was sick. Then I couldn't move with my feet anymore. I couldn't walk. I saw already I can't go on anymore. That I was willing to give up already. But then I thought, let me try my luck once again to go in there, and I'll go in. And over there was a big man, was a Jewish man, the name was Solman. And our legal papers was Solman before. It was my grandmother was at Solman. Her maiden name was Solman. And I went over to him and I had a talk with him, and I told him, actually my name is Solman. And I'm from here, maybe you know how we are related. He was a very nice man. So he was considering me like a mishpacha, that I'm, and you know, at that time, you tried to survive any way you could. I was looking for this Solman after I came, and he sent me in over there to this, to Camp A, to see what I can do to go to the doctor. And finally I got hold of this Solman. I was looking around, I couldn't find him. It wasn't so easy. And after all, we had to do their work, but it was much lighter work there to do than other works. I got home and I told them, I don't feel so good. Take me over to a doctor. Takes me right over the doctor. The doctor looks at me and he asks me, how long are you sick? So just a second day. He said to me, it looks that you're right just in a progress of a typhoid. You must be sick already because temperature I didn't have anymore. Takes my temperature, I don't have. If you would have typhoid, you should have high temperature. Aren't you sick a week already that you feel bad? Could you eat 2 days before? Yeah, very well. I was misleading. So maybe it's not. But I was afraid to tell them if I typhoid, they would be afraid of it because it's very contagious. And I couldn't tell them because this would be the end of me. So it was Erev Yom Kippur. I can't forget it. It was Erev Yom Kippur. The Solman tells me this. Don't report tonight that you are sick. Because tonight, they're going to take all the Jewish people from this, all the Jewish prisoners from this Krankenbau, from Camp A, and all the sick people in your camp. He shows me on the crematorium, because the crematorium was just across the street, like 20 or 30 feet from us. You're going to go out this chimney. And from the chimney came out a fire maybe 50 yards high. You're going to go with this fire if you report tonight. But tomorrow night, report that you are sick, and you are going to come a day after tomorrow. I'll be waiting for you, don't worry. I'll take care of you. I couldn't walk already. I had difficulties with it. So my portion I couldn't eat. So I gave it to two friends of mine, but one on this side, one on this side. I gave them my bread, and they were holding on to me that I should be able to help me out. And we were working the whole way from the work to our main commando. And the main commander, everyone came together, like 200 prisoners, together back into the camp. And this Adolf, he was in the head row, and he gave commando. Commando means he gave orders. Like I say, Mützen up, Mützen off. I mean, so that they had to take it off. And they were counting it. And he sees from the far that the Germans are selecting the prisoners, the weakest and taking out. He came out running from his front line. Where's Obstfeld? Where's Obstfeld? Where's Obstfeld? And I said, here I am. He said, look, you got to work, don't hold him, but you got to walk on your own feet, because otherwise you're getting out on this chimney tonight, because I see they're taking out the wicked people. No, what do you think? I don't need the urge to live. I put myself together. I tried my very best to march in just like anyone else. And after us, you came into the gun, the Germans came into our ranks. They took out the guy, the left hand, and they took out the guy there. And I was waiting, he should take me to. And somehow he moves on the side, and I keep on going, and he lets me go. My younger brother stays on the side. Mein Bruder hat mir jetzt genommen, and they took my brother. He wasn't working with me together, he was working at another place. Now, somehow he didn't see me because I worked in days. They were the strong ones, they were holding me. And me, he let through. I was in days. And I'm in his back, and I clap his back. Herschel, I'm here. I don't have to tell you. Herschel, I'm here. I don't have to tell you. And then this was the night of the night from Colnedra. This was the night of. And then in Yom Kippur, we had to go to work too. In and out. I couldn't even, I wasn't at my mind already. He sent me again, and they took out thousands of people from our camp. And coming in this Camp A, quiet. All the barracks are empty. Only the barracks from the Gentile people were, because there were Gentile people, but I thought there were Poles and Germans. For one reason or another, they were there too. It was so quiet. And this was Yom Kippur. I go in one of the, in barrack 15, I remember, as it would be yesterday, because this guy what was in charge of the barrack was his name Shane. I knew him too. I was so long in Auschwitz that I made friends. And I told Shane, and I told him, I'm sick. He said, go in this preach, we called it, because the barracks, I never described it to the barracks. How did we live in these camps? There were barracks, let's say, in our camp, in all the camps, in Camp D, there were like 32 barracks. Each barrack could hold about 300, 400, 500 people. Where would you put it? They're like a bunk beds, but not bunk. And on one shelf, 6 prisoners were sleeping, of course, on a board. And like 3 shelves. You go on one of these shelves, and I'm going to wake you. Go to sleep. I'm going to watch. If anyone is going to come, I'm going to send over somebody. And I lay down and I was sleeping. And then I wake out in days. And I see that one of the Jewish people, he's davening, taking out a siddur. And I said, what he becomes so from, so religious? What happened to him? I told myself, I never saw this guy davening. What's the matter to do? And I felt that I had to drink something. I did not remember it as Yom Kippur. Not at all. As I told you before, I was like in daze. I go over, there was a big bowl with coffee, black coffee, or coffee. It was black. And I took a cup, and I started to drink. So one guy comes over, he gives me, you make everyone believe that you are religious. Today in Yom Kippur you are drinking. When he tells me it's Yom Kippur, I took out a cup and everything, the whole coffee went, everything got wet from me. I spilled it over me. I started to shake. I didn't remember at all that it's Yom Kippur. Then I realized why he did this. One is saying his prayers now. Then, of course, I tried to say my prayers by heart if I remember to write it's Yom Kippur. I was very sorry that I had that I started to drink already, but I looked up to this guy and said, Rabboni Shalom, you know that I did not know that's Yom Kippur today. I said my prayers as much as I could remember, because I said I didn't have. As much as I could remember. Didn't finish. I know that I couldn't stand, couldn't lay, and I couldn't say it anymore. Because I remember that I started to say. Then the end, I went back. I had to go back to camp. No, not to camp. We get to the center, to my commando. Then we marched in, and as I was told, to report that I'm sick. And then next morning, they took all the sick people over there to the Camp A, and sure enough, this son was waiting for me. He takes me by by my hand. He takes me in a barrack from all Polish people, Poles. They had bunks like not that. We had single ones. They had nice covers, pillows. I didn't see that in Auschwitz, not what the one what they gave to us. And he, and was on the top, he gave me that, on the top was better than underneath. Yeah, it was area, and he gave me a cover, and he told the guy to bring me bread and coffee and marmalade. And the bread was white bread. Where am I in a hotel, I told myself. But then I said to him, I can't eat anyway. Didn't impress me. Imagine Auschwitz giving me such wonderful things. So he got, look, I'm giving you that no other Jewish man has, other Jewish prisoner has, and don't complain. So I'm not complaining. I'm very grateful. I took everything, I put it underneath my head, and I lay down, and I was sleeping for a couple hours. After sleeping a couple hours, I woke up, and I remind myself that behind my pillow, what I put away. I said, but I can't eat, I thought to myself. Then I said, well, let me see what it is. And I remember I started, and I got they gave me a knife with marmalade, which I wasn't used to all these things. My hands were shaking. I couldn't even hold the piece, it fell out of my hand. And I could have had people, of course, I didn't go to wash my hands, but I said I might see. And I was, and I made a mitzvah and ate. I said, you know, I can eat. I can, because, and it tasted quite all right. Then I cut off the next piece, and it was easier on me. I could already, the marmalade I couldn't use because it was dripping all over the place, because I was so shaking. And I ate another piece, and I suddenly started to feel a lot better than I felt in there. I lied down and I had another nap, and I was a different person already. Then and the next day, I got off my bed already, and they gave me fresh bread, and he told the other Poles they should be nice to me if they know what's good for them, because he knew what good friends they are. He warned them to be nice to me, that I'm a relative. He told them I was the only Jew in this barrack. And over there they had a special treatment. No Jewish prisoner had a treatment like that. Then I found this guy, this Shen from Barrack 15. If you don't have time, he come over to me, and I'm going to give you soup, and I'm going to give you. I was offering it, and as I felt better, I could eat already, and I didn't have enough. I could eat more already after a couple of days. Now, not right away. And he told me the Solomon came every day to see me, and he told the doctor to see me and to see what it's. And the doctor, it puzzles me. I don't know what he had. But regardless of what he had, he doesn't have it anymore. Because I confused him. I didn't tell him that I was sick. Because you're with typhoid, you run for 10 days temperature. And he didn't have temperature because the whole time when I had it, I went to work. Then I got out of the camp because he couldn't hold me. He held me as long as I could. And I tell you, I had the treatment so well that I could come to myself comparatively, of course. After I got to my younger brother was working in a place, it was called the Weberei. Weberei was inside work because this was right after Sukkot, and I don't have to tell you, beginning of the winter, to work in the outside was quite tough, and over there it's very, very cold. And in Auschwitz it's very cold, much colder than over here in America, much colder. And being after...
Just stop one moment. You mentioned that they cleaned out the hospital on Yom Kippur night. Was that just a coincidence, or was there a reason for that?
From time to time they did it. They took out the Jewish people. This was the date, that was the order, this and this day to take out.
Were there any specific actions on Jewish holidays or anything like that?
I don't think so. I don't think that they even knew that it was Yom Kippur. Maybe they did. Very much possible. I never thought of it. Maybe they did. Not that I know. And very much possible they did, and that's why they selected Yom Kippur night, the night from Canada.
In general, while you were in the ghettos and so forth, how were the holidays? I mean, in the ghettos, were they singled out for any special...
Not that I remember the singled out holidays, no. But we davened in private houses. As a matter of fact, in ghetto, when I was in Krakow in ghetto, Yosel Manbaum, you know, the Chazan Yosel Manbaum, who said he was Chazan for over 25 years in this father Shishil on 14th Avenue. Now he's an old man. He was then davening in the ghetto in Krakow, in Beis HaMidrash in Krakow. And we could daven. Of course, if the German would come, we would know everyone would run to his house. We did daven. Without with minyan, yeah. Not in his house, in the Beis HaMidrash even, in the ghetto. What should I tell you? They made, by us, we don't make a kalmul rachmim. There's a minhag Ashkenaz after Kriyas HaTorah, you say the kalmul rachmim. And then he made a kalmul rachmim. What should I tell you? Everyone had many from his close relatives that they were killed by the Germans. Then now I would go back. By the way, before I go to the camp, I'm going to tell you the story what my wife reminded me to tell, because it's something gruesome. Sons, you know the Sons of you heard about the Sons of a Yiddish you call it Santam, Polish you call it Nowe Sącz. It's a nice sons because they're old sons and was a nice sons. There was a man with the name Wolf Langsam. He has a younger brother, Avrohom Langsam. He lives now in Bnei Barak in Eretz Israel. He was working in the Yiddish Kultusgemeinde, but the Germans, when they came in, every place where they came in, the Jewish people had to have like people that are representing the Jewish people, because they wouldn't go to everyone at all. They made a Yiddish Kultusgemeinde, where that meant an English translation would be like a Jewish Cultural Association. That's exactly the right expression, yes. This Wolf Langsam was a big Talmid Chacham, was a young man. He was from Mishlenice. Mishlenice is a small town not far from Krakow in Galicia. And he got married. His wife was from Sants. And he lived in Sants after he got married. One day, over there was the German, what he was the authority, and his sons was Haman. His name was Haman. He gave an order. He came over one to the Yiddish Kultusgemeinde. He said it to this Wolf Langsam, make me a list from all the Jewish people over 50. I got to have this list ready this and this date. Didn't answer him, I think. And I'm going to be this date, I'm going to be here to take from you the list. This Wolf Langsam made up his mind, he's not going to make this list. Because he knew, everyone knew what it meant. He is not going to be a part of it. He had a father, was a Rabbi Yitzchak Langsam. His father was I don't remember if he was a Mishnitz or he was I think he was in Krakow already, because they couldn't live in Mishnitz already, because Mishnitz, if I remember correctly, was unrein already. Unrein, what means unrein, I said it before, means clean of Jewish people. That's how they called it, the Germans. He called his father, if he can try he sent him from this Jewish organization a passport that he should be able to travel on the train, that he has some business to attend. He should come over here to Sons from this and this date, because he knew what that means if he is not going to give. What that means that he is not going to he is not going to give this list. The date came, the German came to him, give me the list. He said, I have no list. Said, he didn't make the list? I said, no. I said, come with me. He took him to his house. He took him to his house. He came into the house. Killed the children in the presence from the mother and father. He killed his wife, and then he killed him. If this is not cherish Hashem, I want to know what is. He was willing to give his life not to have a part in killing anyone. He gave the tefillin before that. He gave to his father the tefillin he should give to his younger brother, this Avrohom Langsam. He lives now in Bnei Brak, just on before Pesach. My wife and I, we were in Eretz Yisrael. By the way, this Avrohom Langsam, this younger brother, the one lives, he was my oldest brother-in-law. They married two sisters. Now he's a big shiny after here, of course, he lost his wife and the children. He married my wife's first cousin. So we went to see them, okay, and we were very close. My wife just spoke to her dad just 2 or 3 days, because, you know, we were in contact. He gave the tefillin to give to Avrohom. To this, Avrohom asked his father, and the father didn't want to tell him. Why he's giving his tefillin? What is he using? His father didn't answer him. And he was holding the yutzat from his brother. So I don't remember the date. He told me, but I don't remember the date from the yutzat. And once I was sitting with him talking to Dr. Imagine Avrohom, he tells me he forgot once the yutzat. And the night before, he didn't say Kaddish. At night, he sees his brother, his wife, takes him around, he pushes him down, guy davening, go to pray by the Amud. He walks up, he reminds himself it is the Yutzat. He wasn't an ordinary man. He was a big Talmid Chacham. He knew he was one of the very Choshevei in Gilat Bobov. So as his brother, they should live and be well. Some of them is a big Talmid Chacham too. He gets up every morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and learn his shiurim. I wanted to, my wife reminded me to tell you this story. This is one of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of stories. They didn't just kill in the most brutal way, when it can hurt the most. This was their way of killing. Let me go back to the Auschwitz now. In Auschwitz, what should I tell you? The beginning was very, very hard. What they gave you to eat, it wasn't enough. We suffered from hunger. And in sleep, the way we slept on this board. But we got used to it. It was just like any other. If they were, the worst thing was when you worked in the outside and your clothes got wet because it was raining, and you came into the camp after work, everything was wet on you. The next morning, those wet things you had to put back on because this was the only clothes you had. Clothes. What did we have? Clothes. But that's what we had. This was the worst thing, even worse than hunger, to put on the wet things next morning. My wife tells me how she and her sister, when she wants to mention the worst thing what happened to her in camp, in the concentration camp, to put on the next morning the wet clothing in a cold morning, to go back to work and to do a day's work without any food, because the food they wouldn't bother to give in the morning because they're wasting time. It's time to go to work. The food, the piece of bread, they gave it should last you for 24 hours. They gave it after work. And after work you had to eat a piece to save for next morning. That's how I used to do it for a very long time. And one day I came in the morning and I'm looking for the piece of bread. It was stolen from me. I decided no more, never again. Because I don't have to tell you, we are all kinds of people. And I was sleeping, and they stole the piece of bread. So I don't have to tell you, we spent the whole day without almost any food. They just gave us coffee. At lunchtime, they gave us soup. So it depends how lucky you were, because if you got from the bowl and the end that heavier soup, that filled you up a little bit. If you were unlucky that you were in the next line, the beginning of the, and if they went so Yoshidek, you know, the ones that they gave out the food, they didn't mix it up very well. You got yourself with a little watery soup that didn't do a thing for you. So most of the time I was not one of the lucky ones to get there. But somehow we managed. Then one day, and it was in 1943, late in summer, they decided, they called it up, we stop work we stop work one day, 3 o'clock, we stopped working. Going into the camp, we didn't understand the reason why. We came in the camp, and they gave us an order, everyone undressed, completely undressed. And there came a doctor, a German doctor, and a prisoner doctor, and people, and they called it Stubdienst. Stubdienstmeister people, they were on each barrack, there was a block Alterster, that means that he was the oldest from this barrack. And in some cases there were Jewish people also, but in most cases there were German prisoners. Probably he did something what they shouldn't put in prison. They sent him in there where the heads over us. Just so happened I was in block. In the block in the barrack number 5, there was a German there. A German was. I never talked to him in my life because he was a big man. If I saw him, I had to stop and You had to, you took it. If you saw a German, that's what you had to do. If you, even the blockade, he was a prisoner too, but he had to give him a respect. If you didn't do it, you got a beating. Well, so I don't have to tell you, I was born and skinned. And wrote down the weakest from the prisoners. They made a list. Of course, they didn't ask no name. All you had to do, everyone had to go like this. These are the numbers they wrote down. Of course, I was written down on the list. This was the first time they made a selection like that in Auschwitz. First time. We didn't, we assumed what it is, but we didn't have proof as it is so. Especially we saw what it is because we saw who was written down, all the weakest. And you know, in the whole camp, everyone had to be on the Appellplatz, they called it. When they make the appeal, where they're counting the prisoners, and each barrack had place for his block for the prisoners. And after they finished all the blocks, they went from one or the other, they had the list ready, they told us, can go in the barracks, back in the barracks. But it was like a curfew, you couldn't go out, not in and out, everyone had to be his own barrack. You know, it was very cold, as I mentioned before. How did they heat it? Because it would be impossible to live without a heating. They were heating as soon as they came into the barrack. I mentioned that before, we had about 400 or 500 prisoners in each barrack. As we came in, it was like in the middle, because there were the bunk beds of on this side and on this side. In the middle of the barracks was like a door opened from the ground, high like 3 by 3, like a chimney. Now the chimney goes up, but this went flat down on the ground from one end to the other end. The other end had the chimney out, and this end coming in, you put in wood, should burn. And as you put in the wood, and the whole land was warm. This chimney, this long chimney, but the chimney went for straight, and then it went up, and the smoke went out from the barracks. Understand? They put in the wood in the front. And this was a place to sit, because we didn't have no tables and chairs, of course. On this, we could sit. We could on this side and the other side. We were sitting. Being that they had nothing to do, though, we were sitting. I was one of the sitters. And I know that I was written down. And I was thinking of it, but what could I do? And the Blockaltester, is this German, this prisoner, yeah, in the front and the left side was the office, his office. He had a Schreiber, like his secretary. In German it's a Schreiber. He was a Jewish person from Germany. He spoke a perfect English. He was from Germany. His name was Nathan, this I remember perfectly. He had his office there, the Blockaltester. He had his secretaries. He comes out from his office. Oh, I'm sorry. I stepped on it. Or did I step it? Yes. I'm sorry. I stepped on it, not willing. It's my grandson.
Okay, we have speed? Okay.
You want me? Yeah.
Okay.
And this Blockaltester, he's the oldest from this barrack. He was the big boss. He walks like with hands behind his back. He walks straight on the face and looks at the people and everyone in this face. And he walks. He passes, I would estimate, about 25 prisoners. And he stopped by me and he says, "Was ist mit dir los?" What's happening to you? No, What's the matter with you? Now, that's the translation. What's the matter with you? So I got up. Herr Blockletter, ich bin aufgeschrieben worden. Miss Mr. Blockletter, that I was written down on the list. Warum hat man dich aufgeschrieben? Why did I write you down on the list? I said, ich habe einen Verbund an meinem Fuß gehabt, that I have a bandage on my foot. Maybe because of that they wrote me down. The question wasn't such a smart question, because looking at me, he could figure it out right away. Why did they write me down? But this was the case. Komm gleich mit mir. He walks briskly, and he tells me to follow him. I said, no, no. And I'm in daze. What did I do to him? What does he want from me? And he started yelling at me, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. You don't know how to behave. On his way, he threatens me. I don't know what it is. He takes me, opens up his office, and he leaves the door open. I should come into, and he closes the door behind us. So, Nathan, nimm ihn mal raus. Good. Nathan, take him out of the list. He said, halt die Schnauze, sag niemand. I should hold my Schnauze. How do you say it in English? Schnauze is something. You know, you say to a dog or to an animal, halt die Schnauze. I should tell no one. And opens out the door, and he runs after me. And he shows me like this, that he's going to kill me, because I don't know how to behave. So everyone got scared. That shouldn't happen to them, but happened to me. I go back on my place, I sit down, and after he passes, he goes, he found another one, the other one he called also in. I was on days, I don't remember how many he took in, 1 or 2. I never talked to this guy a word. And he passes so many faces, by me he stopped. And then, and I didn't know what happened, but I figured it out. Nothing bad happened to me after all. And of course I didn't tell no one. I didn't. Then I had 2 brothers, my oldest brother and my younger brother, on block 28. I wanted to hear what happened to them. I found out that my older brother was written down, the younger brother was not. The one is not alive. So I go over there, they had a Yiddish Blockhaltester. A Jew from, he was originally from Poland, but he came from Paris, they brought him over. And I go over to him and I ask him, please take him out. So you're crazy, I can't take him out of a list. So listen, I was on the list, I was taken out. My Blockhalter took me out, why can't you do the same thing for my brother? So what block are you? I tell him, you're comparing me to you block. He is a German, I'm a Jew. He talked to me menschlich, God. And of course I lost then my brother.
Why did he take you off the list?
You tell me. You tell me. I told you the story. You figure it out yourself. And I don't know more than you, and you don't know more than I. That's what had happened. And at night, I had a very good friend. I was a friend. He was much older. He was a married man. He had children before there was a name. Maybe it's a mitzvah to mention his name. Mottel Hirschfeld. Was a chassidischer Mann mit weißen Socken, a Talmud Chochem gewesen. He knew that he was written down on the list, and I was. And at night, they made like a curfew, no one can get out. They come in, and they're starting to call out the numbers. The numbers, they usually call it from the smaller numbers, and the bigger. They start with the smaller number. And when I came near to us, this Mottel Herschel said to me, Avro, tim sich geh mal. Wir gehen zusammen. Sich halten zusammen. So I know that I was taken out. So I started, you know, to be slow, to take this and take this. And I didn't want to tell him. He gives me Schlimmmasel, he calls me. Was nimmt das so lang? What does it take you that long? Until he was taken away. And you know, and my heart was beating until I hear they skip my number, because it got an order. Are they going to come? It was so fast, it was taken out. I was worried. I wasn't sure that he took out the right number. It was so fast, one peek and get out, and until I heard that they skipped my number. And over there, all the other people, they took away.
So he asked me to ask you about, you said he wants me to broch on a piece of bread. I don't know what.
Yeah, this is one of the stories. Now I'm almost next to it. I tell you, I was so skinny and so weak that on all these, and then they started to practice every so often. They made selection from the weaker people. Because as I told you, there was a sign, ausnitzen die letzte Kräfte, dann vernichten. Now just a translation. Use out all the last drop of strength, and then destroy. And when we didn't have strength anymore, they had no use for us. There was quite a few smaller selections. And being that I had friends, I helped myself. I'm here. They took me out. But this was almost the last one. This was in January of '44. January 44, they took out. And then I got another brother, older brother, Israel. He was the second brother. He was the second from the oldest. He was in the Krankenbau in Camp A, which I lost but the last selection, what I'm about to tell you, was in January of '44. As for the other selection, I was also on the list, and they took me out. And there was no one that they could take me out because it was very strict control, and I was with my younger brother. And we slept together, we were all together. They wanted to separate us quite a few times, and you had a better chance that we had two brothers together. One could help the other in his need. And they called out my name to take me out, and what they practiced, they empty out one barrack. All the people, the prisoners, what they were written down, to take them together to the gas chambers. And then we were sure that it wasn't the first time, maybe yes, maybe no, even though we knew, but it wasn't practiced before. But then it was many, many, many selections already. Then they took us over in a barrack, just prisoners that had to be gassed in the next day. So you knew already that that's the last night of your life, no chance of survive, because everything what I could, I tried. And there were people that I knew from Brigham, this Simmet was their name, came over to me and they asked me please to help them, to take them out. I told them, believe me, I'm written down too. I'm also on the list. Can't help myself. I'm going together with you. What can I help you?
What was people's thoughts the night before?
And what were the thoughts was that this is the last night or the last night of your life. I didn't care to sleep. And whatever I could say to Helen by heart, I did. And there were a few people, quite a few people, that were religious people. There were people from Warsaw. And we took one of the pritches, we call the pritch, means one of these shells, the top. And we were davening together. At night, I didn't know that they're organizing to taking all the people to religion, because very few, most of them didn't care to them, I must say that. There were also Greek Jewish people. There were all kinds of people from all over Europe. I was thinking on my crib, and I can't imagine what I was thinking of. And I had, yeah, my brother, when we separated, said goodbye to each other, he gave me a piece of bread, and I took the piece, but I couldn't talk. Because you can imagine how you say goodbye. I throw it back on the bunk bed. He grabs this piece of bread and he forces me to take. He forces me to take. And I wanted to throw it, and he holds it back. I shouldn't throw it. So I took it with me. I had no, actually, I had no choice. I told him, what do I need the bread for? But he insisted that I take the bread. And I took it with me. And take me in laying the last night of my life. I didn't know the time, because who had a watch? But we were sitting and thinking, didn't sleep at all. Not a moment, not a moment. A guy comes over and he looks in, and I was in the middle, but I wasn't the top, I was in the middle. And I was all alone by myself. No one else, everyone went around talking to each other. And asked me in Yiddish, אפשר שתשתיק לברוט, אני so hungry. Maybe you have a piece of bread. I'm so hungry. Take the piece of bread. Was I happy I took the piece of bread? Look, I can do good things in the last moments of my life. How can I do a good thing? And I made sure that I have something in my head. I said, I would like to say a blessing on the mitzvah. But the Chacham didn't make a bracha on the mitzvah tzedakah. So what do? I'm holding the piece of bread, and I'm about to give it to him. And I said, Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam without Hashem HaMalchus. Asher kedeshonu b'mitzvos v'tzivuni al mitzvah tzedakah. With all my heart, and I was mecham to mekayim to a mitzvah, to do the good thing in the last moments of my life, and I gave him the piece of bread. This guy takes the piece of bread and he started to cry. I'm worse than an animal. What right did I have to ask you a piece of bread? Aren't you as hungry as I am? Why did I ask you a piece of bread? He started crying. I said, no, I have another piece. I didn't have. And I tell you, the soup I didn't want to take anymore. I ate the soup till now because I thought, let me live through. Why should I eat now soup? Didn't want to take anything. And I gave him the piece of bread, and he was eating it. Believe me, this was a very happy moment to me, that I could do the good deed in my life yet. What else could I do? Next morning, and we saw the star at the light, and we organized, we went around to whoever wanted to daven. We went up like a cross from my perch. We went out and we davened by heart. Tefillah we didn't have. What should I tell you? We came to the posek Tzadek Hashem b'chol deruchav v'chosed b'chol maasav. It took us at least a half an hour. Kept on repeating. And one of the people said, everyone should be mekabel himself, misa, that we are taken up, that willing, we going now to die, but we remember the name from Chef of Bisha. And we are willing to go as Jews to die. And we have no questions. We have no questions why does it happen to us. Tzaddik Hashem b'chol deruchav. We kept answering again and again and again. And then finally we started Kura Hashem L'chol Koirav, we kept on. Suddenly I hear a voice that I remember I know. He said, Achtung! We said, attention! Achtung is attention, translation of English. And I see it's the vice capo from our commander, a Jewish man. It was David. He was from Lodz. And I was working for him. I was in his commando. And the capo was a German prisoner over him already. And when he says, Achtung, attention, everyone got quiet. And when he says me, he shows me with the finger that he has something good for me, like, and I look, where does he come? Imagine, he started to call the numbers from the smaller to bigger. Sure enough, he calls up my number. And he shows me, I should come. I jump down, I don't have to tell you. And I keep on going, yeah. And one thing, the Germans, they were very thrift, you know. They wouldn't waste anything. It was bitter cold. It was so cold then. It was a January, very cold day. It was in January, positively in January, because I remember I holding them in Titus. They took off our coats and the jackets already. And little by little, they took off all the clothes from the people that take their prisoners, to be these clothes to be able to use for the other prisoners. So we were already like shirts. We didn't have shirts, but what they gave us to use under the coats. And they lined us up in the front, and we were about 22 people from our command, because we were commanded for 200 people. There, I remember it was one, a Greek Jew. He wanted to mingle with us and to be like one of us. Of course, I let him stay. But they went over, everyone had to show the number, and to see if they would, and they throw him out because he was not on the list, and he started crying so bitterly. And in the bitter call, we marched, and the lion told me that you are going back to work. Yeah, he was very happy with the assignment they gave him. This was his happiest time in his time in Auschwitz, he said. When the Oberscharführer gave him the list to bring back the people, to his prisoners. And they brought us in the barrack. And as I mentioned before, I worked that time in the inside. And over us, there was an Oberscharführer. They had their own ranks. The Oberscharführer was an assassin. He was over us. And that time, it grew to a commander for 500 prisoners. There were also girls they were working. What did we do in the camp? We did anarchy thing, but that's what we did. The ladies took make a little sacks and filled it up with rags, and when a barrel with heavy thing has to go out on the ground, not to hit the ground, to put it under something soft. And if it would go just on the sack, it would bust. They make like braids from the rags. And that was the girls' job. They made a yardage, 150 yardage, like a meters they get. 100 meters they cut it down. And our job was at these braids to put on the sacks that it should be strong. And I tried to help myself, but I became a mechanic that I could produce 4 a day. And I had a helper that he was holding me. And I made it so tight and so good that I was on the list from one of the masters. So this German, the Oberscharführer, went over to the Lagerführer, which was also Oberscharführer, his best friend. Ich muss meine Juden haben. I must have my Jews, because they are mechanic, otherwise I have to give up. And that time there was the war with the Russians. They didn't want to go on the Russian front. And if they wouldn't have this, so they would hold on to it. That's what we were told later. This was my luck that they took me out. They took me out from there. Then I came back and they left soup for us. And of course, then I ate soup. Then I started to eat the soup again. And they brought us clothing. And I don't have to tell you, when I came back after you know, when they saw us coming back, and the Oberchauffeur came, of course he wouldn't greet, I wouldn't shake hands with a Jew. Now, he came to us to tell us that he was the one who saved our lives. And then we didn't see, because we saw him very, very seldom, we saw him. And when we saw him, I don't have to tell you. But he was good to us. And then it shows out he was good to us because he needed us. Then we were there. After that, they didn't make so many selections anymore. Then it started to come in from Hungary, the transport. Because it started to come like in April of '44. Transport thousands and thousands of people, thousands and thousands of people. See the difference between Hungary and Poland. In Poland, they killed on spot, on the spot, in the towns, in the cities, in the villages. In Hungary, they didn't do no killings in there, but they took everyone on the train and they brought them to Auschwitz, which was quite brutal too. You know, we were told I didn't work there, and I didn't see it because I worked on my work. Would I have worked there, I wouldn't be here anymore. That the crematoriums worked day and night. We saw a fire going out of the chimney, 100-yard fire, not smoke, fire. On top of it, we saw the smoke. They didn't have enough that they made ditches, big ditches, and they throw in children, live children, into the fire. I read in the New York Times that one survivor saw that the Germans were there with the sticks in the hand. If anyone started to run out, like boys already, boys and grown-ups, they throw them into the fire alive, because the gas chambers wasn't big enough prepared for so many people. They chased them in with the sticks back into the. This I didn't see, but I was told from people what I saw. Then it was like October, November '44. The whole summer, the transport came from Hungary. Then like in June, July, it started to slow down already. It started to slow down. But still from here, from there, till transport came. I could see from over the wires, because there were the electrical wires, but you could see what's going outside of the camp. You could see everything. People were standing in the line to go in the gas chambers, the crematoriums, because the crematoriums was like across the street from us. Actually, I didn't see it. I wasn't near it, but I could see from across the street whatever I could see. Like October, November, they took us. They took us on trains, because the Russians started to come nearer and nearer. And it seems that they want to still have the people to use it for work. They took it to Sachsenhausen by Berlin. That was, I think, in November of '44. Then we heard, we didn't know for months after it, Like the end of 44, we thought that the American army landed in Normandy. We didn't know that before. Months later, we heard that. So I said, would it be here from the Russians? We were in the east. In the Western Europe, till they're going to come, nothing will remain for us until they're going to come. But at least we were happy that, you know, that there's another front and they're fighting the Germans. But we were looking for that the Russians should come. But it took no end to it. They took us on trains, and we were traveling for 3 days and nights. And I don't have to tell you, it was most terrible. Didn't give us no food. And we had to be only in the front because they were afraid that we'd be at the door, that we may try to escape. And they were so brutal to us, those who were standing. They took out their bread and I remember the cheese, they were cutting slices and they put in, they were eating the sandwiches, and they showed us how they're eating. They showed us how they are eating, and they were drinking and eating and sitting and just watching us. When we came to Sachsenhausen by Berlin, we didn't know where we're going, where we're coming, but when we came, we saw that it's Sachsenhausen. They were holding us there for a couple of days. Over there, they gave us already a soup, a piece of bread, and the condition when they came were much better than Auschwitz. I tell you, we had a happy feeling, at least we are not near the crematorium. We didn't know how bad it is here. At least we are not afraid they're going to take us in the gas chambers. Then after a couple of days, again on the train, they took us to more to the west of Germany, southwest from Germany, Munich, second Landsberg. And over there was Dachau, the concentration camp Dachau. But they made a small camp which is affiliated as a part of Dachau, was Kaufering 11. They made like a lot of small camps because Dachau was full already. There was no room for us. And over there, our barracks were like in the ground. And the beds what they gave us also was just boards, like shelves, but they gave us paper bags. They told us, if you're going to tear the bags, tomorrow night you're not going to have another one. This is going to be your cover. I was watching, and I had in perfect condition the same night. But others, I don't have to tell you, most of them were clumsy people, they didn't care. They tore it up the first night, and after work, they came the next day. I didn't mind anymore. I had to turn one. I turned one up because they exchanged it. The condition was quite poor. At least in Auschwitz, discipline was very strong. That this time they gave you your food. They didn't give much, but this time you got it. And you had to get. And then once you got, once you didn't get. Once I was waiting in Kaufering. There was the winter of 45 already, beginning of 45. There was like a January 45. I stood in my line to get my supper, the soup and the piece of bread for the next day, for the whole day. A German comes over and he grabs a group of people, which I was one of them. My younger brother, he was working in the kitchen, which was a very, very good job. Because in the kitchen you always can help yourself. He was a young boy. He was lucky. He took care of me. When we said to the German that we didn't have supper yet, we were standing outside. Oh, don't worry, you're going to come here, you're going to get a double portion, you'll come back. Promised a double portion. At least we were happy that we were going to get a double portion. We were working till 1, 2 o'clock. They got coal. They got, and we had to take it out of from the wagons to the distributor to put it on the trucks. We had to carry. It was very hard work. And I don't have to tell you the strength what we had to carry, the heavy things. But somehow we managed. It was till late at night. And coming back, there was nothing left to us. My brother, my younger brother, was still in the kitchen. And I told him what had happened. And I went back and I lay down to sleep. What else can I do? And while I was talking, I was crying to just tell him. We were so disappointed because we expected that not only because we came from Auschwitz, and Auschwitz couldn't happen this. A discipline. Over here, there was no discipline. All right, so my brother heard what I told him, and I was sleeping already. He wakes me up. And he brought me a little soup. He said he didn't eat, and we ate together. Oh, all right, not much, at least a little bit. Then it came like in March. We heard already that Americans are coming near us because we the southwest of Germany. That they're coming from France. They crossed the French border already. How did we know? Because they were Germans. They were working with us. They were from the working force. They were watching over us. That we should work.
Let me get this story from the start. We're about to run out of time.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry,
Maybe I'm telling too a long story, no?
What's about
One second,
the...
let me,
Sorry?
Let me set the iris.
Let's just still adjust something. One last adjustment.
Okay.
Then in March of 45, those Germans, they weren't the Nazis. They were workers, but they were in uniform. I don't know how good they were, but they tried to show us that they are not the bad ones, that they're not the Nazis, they're not the SS, they're not the Gestapo. And we were working from them. They watched our work. They told us that the war goes very bad for the Germans. It was in March. And then in April, beginning April, we were told that soon we are going to evacuate this camp that we are in. And we weren't told why, but we figured it out because the Americans, and we were told that Americans are coming our way. Of course, I don't have to tell you how happy we were. This is what we were waiting. But one worry is if they're going to let us see them alive, these Americans. Because we knew that it was an order from Berlin not to leave no one alive in the last moment. We didn't know how if they're going to follow the orders. It was like middle of April, yeah. It was the middle of April. They told one another to pack the thing and to go out on the appeal place, and that we are leaving the camp. So we lined up, and we had to go march out, and we were marching towards the end. This was the end of April. It was because we were liberated April the 30th, and this must be like a couple days before that. We were marching for 3 days and 3 nights. At night we were resting, we were sleeping in the out. Now how can I say, it was still quite cold, especially for people like us with our clothing. What we had, what they gave us clothing. You know, this I didn't mention, you know something, in Auschwitz, on the other way, when it was bitter cold, we worked on the outside, the papers what we took from the cement, we put underneath our coats from the front to the back, papers better than nothing to protect ourselves from the wind. We tried to survive. We were sleeping at night in the woods, and we pressed each other together to warm up a little bit. And the daylight we were marching. We were marching through towns and to villages. One place we marched through, somebody opened up a window and threw out a loaf of bread. I wasn't the one to catch it. They would be smarter, but they would cut it in pieces and throw pieces that a few people should catch it. But, you know, they didn't think. But anyway, at least somebody got it. Because in this way, a few people, yeah, maybe I would catch a piece also. And the Germans were watching it that we shouldn't, being that we are in a town, they should run away and go in the houses. But there was only one place. But right away we got out of this town and they took us on the roads. It was about in the second and the third day, we heard a siren, air attack, that the Americans are coming. Oh, we were happy to see it. And we heard already at night, we could hear the shooting. So we were happy. We hear already that activity goes on. Maybe we'll make it. And I don't have to tell you how happy we were. And then one day, the third day, we heard the siren, and the Germans, our guard, they were running in the ditches, they were hiding. We didn't hide. So the Germans were laughing, they talked to each other that we are just like animals, not afraid for anything. What were we afraid? I took out my coat, which was with the striped prisoner coat, and I spread it on the ground. And one of the planes, he was diving, and we could see that he is looking down. And as he saw us, right up, he didn't do a thing. He saw that we are prisoners. I was positive, so low that he could see us. And I saw the American star with USA, so we saw the American planes. And they were, and they went, the first one went like 100 yards away from us. He dropped a bomb, and right up, and right after them, a whole column, one after the other, with machine gun, with the automatic machine gun. And they were shooting. They didn't throw bombs, but they were shooting. Woo! That's what we had. One after the other, and we explosion, one after the other, and we were happy. It was just 100 yards away from us. And it was not far woods. And a lot of us tried to run away, I tell you, but I was so weak I couldn't run. Where am I going to run? What am I going to do there? I didn't know that's going to take just 2 or 3 days. And then we came to a camp Allah. It was a branch from Dachau. They told us if we want, we can go further. But we don't have to. They're not going to force us. I said, I'm not going. So one guy came over, if you're not going to go, they're going to kill you all. They're going to kill us all. I can't go after 3 days. Running. I can't. It was the 29th of April, 1945. A guy, one of the presidents from the Jewish boys came in that on this, what they were standing and waiting at, how do you say that? A tomb, we called it in German. A tower. One of the towers, they're looking at the towers, they don't see the Germans there anymore. So we came around out and we didn't see them. So the one of us said, we can broken up out the camp, we can get out of the camp already. But one guy said, don't be so smart. Wait till we see the Americans. Next morning we wake up, we see on the towers the Germans again. So you can imagine. After 2 or 3 hours, we saw them running down and they're running away. And I was laying inside in the barrack. It was about 12 o'clock, April the 30th, 45. They see Americans are here. When they said the Americans, we broke up and I came out. I didn't have strength to go too far. But otherwise, they were stronger than me. They broke open the gates, started yelling and going on the gutter. The Americans came over, talked to them in English. We should go away. War goes on. One Jewish boy came over and he spoke Yiddish, but not very good, but he could communicate that we should realize the war goes on. We are chasing the Germans. And we told him that we are Jews here in the camp. He went out of the line, he came down from the tank. He came to us, he was crying like a baby. We asked him, maybe you have some food. Whatever he had in the packets he gave us. He ran back and he took from the other boys, from the soldiers, whatever he could. And then after a couple hours, and as soon as, I want to go back just 2 or 3 days. We saw the Germans, the farmers, planting potatoes in the front of the camp. Outside the barbed wires. Over there, the barbed wires, they weren't electric wires. And we were planting potatoes, like a potato cut in pieces, and they're planting it. And as soon as we saw the Germans, we ran out, we digged open these potatoes, and a pail, we found a pail. So one of the boys, one of my friends, we came and until we digged out, we were so tired from it, because strength we didn't have. We had a pail full with potatoes, piece of paper, digged out from the ground. Where did you find the potatoes? He wanted. So I said to him, don't go for potatoes, we have plenty of here. You bring wood, make a fire, and wash these potatoes, and we are going to eat together. But he was a strong boy. He broke a bed, a wooden bed from the offices, what the Germans had. He brought wood and he went to the kitchen, and he brought a piece of wood with fire. He made a fire. Took him quite a while till it breaks, in pieces. We helped them. In the meantime, we washed the potatoes. But we didn't have salt. He went back to the kitchen. He got hold of a little salt. He put it, and we couldn't wait already that it should start boiling. You know, the potato, we can't eat raw potatoes. When it start boiling, let's taste. Maybe it's good already. And we filled ourselves up with the potatoes. They weren't quite cooked. When it was cooked already, we couldn't eat them already because we filled ourselves up with the raw potatoes. And then we feel terrible with the raw potatoes. And when it was cooked already, we saved it for later. And this, then it was for a very long time that we weren't hungry anymore, because we filled ourselves up with the potatoes when we started cooking. We went out of the camp, and we went in the German house, a private house. He invited us to his house. He was a communist from before the war. He was against the Nazis. That's what he told us. And it seemed that it was true too. He gave us to wash up. He had to throw away whatever we were wearing. He gave us some clothing, whatever he had. He went over to the other Germans. He was nice to us. And we were there for a couple of days. Then we got back our strength already a little bit. We went too far from Munich. How will you get to Munich? Because after all, there was nothing. The buses didn't go, trains didn't go. It was right after the war. And I learned how to drive, how to ride a bike. So with the bike I came to Munich. And then I found a bunch of Jewish boys. Maybe have a pair of tefillin. I start laughing. You have everything, not tefillin you don't have. You hear what he wants tefillin. Then I found out that 40 kilometers from Munich, there is a camp, Feldafink. This was a camp for the Hitlerjugend, for the young boys what were trained to be SS men. And over there, about 4,000 Jewish people. So I said to my brother, for 4,000, there must be tefillin there. Between 4,000 people, Jewish people. But how do you get there? There was no means of transportation. So I got hold, I started to make business with the Germans to try to help us out. One gave us a bottle of whiskey. One gave us a bottle, I don't remember how I got hold of this bottle of whiskey. So a black American soldier came with a bike. He stole it from somewhere, from a German. And I said to him in German, of course I didn't speak English then, I'm going to give you this bottle of whiskey, give me the bike. He said, okay. So I got a bike already. And it was another young man, he was from Hungary. And he knew that he has relatives there in Feldafing. And I said to my brother, I'm going back, I'm going to this camp. He said, if you want to go, go, I'm not going. And I wanted to go. And then we met up next day, we're going with the bikes. We're going with the bike to Feldafing. I don't know, today's bikes, I don't think, but maybe there's still some bikes because I didn't ride a bike for sometimes. If you want the brake, you had, we called it then contra, you had to turn back. It went back, it was, and we, the two of us, we were riding together. I tell you, I never could ride a bike well because a Bucher like me, and Asisha Bucher didn't ride a bike before the war. But in the war, I learned it because I thought maybe someday I'll have to save myself to know how to ride a bike. And also it was after the war that my knee were very, very weak. We followed a transport from American soldiers. We followed them. And it was down the hill. And the American soldier, he was on a jeep. He showed me, he talked to me, and I didn't understand, to slow down. And that I couldn't hold it. And sure enough, I bumped into him. And they gave me, and I knocked by my chest against the, for months it hurt me. And I had to get off to sit down. And of course the other young man from the Hungary, we were riding together, we were sitting for a while. And while I was riding it, I had a little cap, came down, it came off my head and fell in a brook. The brook was on the right after the bridge, it was down the hill. And my head went with the brook and I didn't have a head and I was without a head. And this American guy, the soldier, tried to help me, talk to me. I didn't understand the word, what I was thinking, he didn't understand what I was thinking. I was thinking for a little while, he left. And then after a while we saw that it's getting late, got up on the bikes, we came to Feldafing. Came to Feldafing, it was like before sunset. As soon as I came blazing cup, you know. I asked everyone in the street if they know anyone from Krakow. Yeah, you know, Hune Volker, he lives now in Flatbush. He's not a well-paid, he's now in Florida. He's a good friend of mine, he's 2 years older than me. And Yossel Manlom, the Chazan Yossel Manlom. I said to this Hune Volker, you saw me without a hat. So he was scratching his head. And I told him the story, what happened to my head, doctor. He tells me, couldn't find a better story. He didn't believe me. He didn't. I said, Hune, believe me, it's true. So, listen, I need a hat and I need tefillin. I said, okay, I'm going to find a hat for you and I'm going to find tefillin for you. He brings me the tefillin, brings me the hat. What should I tell you? Put on the tefillin. It was a long time since I had tefillin. I should be able to say Kol Nidre now, as I said Shema Yisrael then. I said Shema Yisrael, and then I davened Mincha in the tefillin. And he was waiting, he was sitting and waiting. And everyone tried to help me to bring me some food. I had with me because I didn't starve anymore then. Then we went out to see what's happening. Everyone was wearing pajamas. There was no other clothes. Where did they have their pajamas? Well, because they had the pajamas from the Hitlerjugend. This was the clothing for Shabbos, for during the week, pajamas. So I said, I like to be just like anyone else. Next morning, I'll see to it that I also get a pair of pajamas to be just like anyone else, because I was wearing, I don't remember, whatever I got. I see everyone going in one place. I stopped the people asking in Yiddish, where do you go? We're going in Beis HaMidrash to daven Mincha Ma'arav. I'm rubbing my forehead. What? I didn't hear that for a very long time. I remind myself there is such a thing, like going in a Beis HaMidrash to daven Mincha Ma'arav, the evening prayer. I'm trying to say it in English. I said to the Chuda Volker, let's go to Beis HaMidrash. Let me hear how people davening Mincha Ma'arav with Minyan. I look around, I see the great majority of people are Hungarian people. They had just a couple months away from their house, 7, 8, 10 months, not even a year away from their houses. And we were for years, since 39. But Mincha davened already, but I said cherish and cherish. I didn't say cherish for a very long time. And Ma'arav I davened already with them. I said, I'm not going back, I'm staying here. Next morning I got up. And I was staying there already. I didn't want to go back, and I let know my brother, if you want, you can come over here. I'm not going back. Here I like to live with Jewish people. And then I found this Yosel Mandelbaum, the cousin, he's now an old man. I knew him very well. He is much older than me. He could be my father. He's 20 years older than me. He was a married man before the war. But I told him who I am, and we were together, and he was like watching over me. He was there 2 weeks already, so he knew his way around. And all the people wanted to eat kosher. I had to get not food, cooked food, because you had to cook yourself. And they made a small kitchen, so everyone wanted to come. They went there to eat from the general kitchen. Then they came to ask over here. They thought that I'm just like all the others. They didn't believe that I want to eat kosher. So anyway, I'll make this story short because it's not so important. It was the Ila Roof. He's now in Miami. He talked for me. At first, they didn't want to give me. They didn't believe me. Anyway, I was one of the crowd. I started to eat kosher, and I started to make my shirim. And I was, as a matter of fact, the Klosenberger Roof was there. He brought a lot of Yiddishkeit back. And he came from Hungary. Originally, he is from Galicia. But he married the Sigeta Roof's daughter. He was Idem Sigeta Roof. After his chasana, he lived in Hungary. So he lived there, and he was at first sick, and they had like a little hospital, like one barrack, one building they took for a hospital. Then he became well, and he tried to give us chizik. He talked to us, and I was holding on to him, and I became one of his very close associates, like a Talmud of his.
A lot of people didn't go that route after the war
No.
was over.
Most people took him time. Some people took him weeks and months, some years even. Took time.
Never came back.
Very few never came back. Very few came back. I said, very few. I know people, but they didn't come back. Yeah, I know a few that didn't come back, but most of them did come back. One a little sooner, one a little later. And then this was the summer of 45, right after Sukkot. In Yom Tov we were in a feld, I think, and the whole camp, the Klosenberg would have his people moved to Fernwald, and I didn't want to be a camp anymore. I have a friend, Motel Dambitzer. He lives here now, and we were together. He wasn't Russian. He survived with his father, and his brothers and sisters and mother were all lost in the war. And we got an apartment in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. We lived in Garmisch, but I was still in the camp. And my wife, should live be well, she came back right after Sukkot from Poland. I have a friend, his name is Avrom Neiger. He brought a bunch of 5 girls from his town. My wife is from Suche, a small town not far from Krakow. And she was one of the 5 girls. I was the lucky ones. We became engaged with my wife. And she brought me back, what should I tell, new life, new interest in life. After the war, we looked around. What? All right, we are alive now. So what's going to be the end? What it was, this is never going to come back anyway. What's the use? What are we accomplishing? So we are alive. We talk to each other. All right, of course, he didn't want to die. I wouldn't say that we want to die. But what kind of life can we expect? But this Klosenberger, he brought back a lot of Yiddishkeit back. And we became engaged in Rosh Chodesh Kislev. This was the end of December from 45. And Chodesh Kislev is the 3rd month in the Jewish calendar. Tashvov. We became engaged. And I saw to it that I get there was a little hotel in Garmisch that the Germans took away from the Germans and gave it to the DPs, displaced persons, people. And we got a room there. We got married in April of 46, Beis Nissan, Tashvov. And we were lucky, we registered to come. Then it was not Israel yet. It wasn't Israel. And the British wouldn't let the Jewish people go in to Palestine then. And Yosel Mandelbaum, my friend, the cousin Yosel Mandelbaum, he took me to register to come to America. It was a long list, but somehow we were lucky. We were called in very early. We were very surprised that we got a notation that we should come to the council, that they're going to examine us and they're going to check the papers, and we'll be able to go to America. So, of course, we were very, very happy. And the end of 46, we came to Munich, and the process started in February the 18th of 47. We landed in New York. We came with a boat, of course. Those times no one went with a plane. We came with the Ernie Pyle. Ernie Pyle was a ship, a transport ship for the soldiers. Right, Ernie Pyle. I remember the name yet. And we came to America and we started to work. And the first day I came to this country, the Baba should live and be well at my Western Shona. He lived that time in Manhattan.
Let me ask you something. Throughout the years of the war, had you been aware of the Baba Rebbe's circumstances?
We know because we kept on always asking on him. And we,
like a whole sentence for you. Throughout the war.
yeah, throughout the war, we found out in 42 that his father is not alive, that they killed him in Lvov, Lemberg, with his son-in-laws. And today's Baruch, that time we did call him by the name. We did call him by the name. We called him that time Rab Shlomo. But after the war, we stopped calling him with the first name because all the Baba seen what survived.
Just to ask you a few questions before we go into the American experience. Let me see, Marty, did you have some things that you wanted to pass me over?
Yeah.
Throughout the Milchama, just out of curiosity, you said that you had sung Hasidic Negunim before the Milchama. Was there any stories that you can think of at any time during this period where Nagina played any role in helping people, or was that just not something that occurred?
Well, I tell you, it was in the ghetto, it was Rosh Chodesh Oder Beis. Shaul Hutter, he happened to be now, he lives in Antwerp, in Belgium. He's my very good friend. He lives in Belgium. He came now on a wedding, his very good friend's Einikal granddaughter got married. He came for this wedding. We davened Shabbos together now in Bobov. In his house, we got in ghetto, and we tried to make a Malav Malka and to sing all this mirror from Motzei Shabbos. In the middle of the singing, there came a reporter that Chrzanów, which is a town not far from Krakow, became Unrein. In the middle of singing, we stopped singing. We started shivering for pachat. And 2 weeks later, that's what 2 weeks, 1 week later, Zeidy R Avrohom, that's what happened to us. We knew this is one after the other. And in Ghetto in Krakow, Gera Bucher made a bunker what we called a miklat, you said in Hebrew, shelter. And started to learn, and all other Chassidish Bucher went over, joined them, whatever it's going to be. And of course, what later happened, of course, we know what had happened. How long could I be there? We tried to stay together, but for how long could you?
Are there any special... Martin?
I was just going to ask, we had heard numerous stories of people who had smuggled into tefillin, into the camps, and I was just wondering if you had any experiences as far as people
throughout the years
actually
in the
making
camps, was there any, like in Auschwitz, was there any sitter, was there
Here and there, for one reason,
I'm asking to look at me even though he asked the question.
one way or the other, there was a pair film. For a time, in Auschwitz, because there were people that they were working, Jewish people, they were working by the transport, the Jewish people, they come. Because if we came to Auschwitz, nothing what you brought from the outside you could bring back into the camp. Why? But we had to undress completely. And they took away everything what we had, and they gave us different clothes altogether. They gave us a cold shower. They checked out if we are wet. And they gave us different clothes altogether. So there was no way for us to bring in anything from the outside. But people that they were working, they called it Sonderkommando. They were working by their things. Here and there, they were caught a lot of times. When they caught, I pity them. They caught the next day, they didn't bring any because this was the end of them. Somehow, sometimes it happened that they smuggled in a pair of tefillin or that they smuggled in a siddur. Personally, I didn't have tefillin. But after work, I could go over to find, I know where I can find that pair of tefillin. Put in the tefillin and say, cherish, that's it. No more. We are in there were siddurim. Maybe there was one or two. This was for some time, but then
Was there luach keeping track of the calendar? How did you know what the date?
some from the transport where they came, we asked them when it's going to be Yom Tov, when it will be Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we always knew when it is. Yom Tov, we always knew when it is, because people kept on coming and coming.
Was there anything different, let's say, in the ghettos before it got really bad, let's say about Shabbos or Yom Tov? Was there any opportunities at all to make, to observe any of that?
I think we were in ghetto. We did not have to go out. We observed the Shabbos in ghetto. As long as I was in ghetto, they did kosher, and we kept Shabbos. As a matter of fact, there is over here a Jewish man. He's an old man. He's Avrohom Mandelbaum. We call it Avrohom Mandelbaum. He has a son, Leiber Mandelbaum. He is in Bobov. He's an old man. He is going to be in Shavuos, 90 years old. Until 120, he's 90 years old now. But he is you can talk to him. He doesn't walk so well, but he is quite a right shape for a man in 90 years. He whispered in my ear, he told me his birthday, otherwise I wouldn't know. He was born in 1901, the second day of Shavuos. So I was waiting in the ghetto. We were better off than 90% people. We were better off, and I was waiting for 3, 4 o'clock in Shabbos, that he should come in from the outside. He could come in Shabbos from the outside. And we waited when he brought him up to my place, and I gave him to make kiddush, because from raisins we made wine. He made kiddush, and I saved him a piece of fish, and made even cholent I had. We gave him for this. I remember 2 Shabbosim that we did it for this Avrohom Mandelbaum and from this Leiber for his son. Leiber, you can imagine. And they were after work. They had to work, but we were from Krakow. We know so many people that somehow I could help myself to get out. And when I didn't have to work, of course I didn't.
No, but on Shabbos, if you could avoid working, I mean, when you went out, you were forced labor sometimes, you had no choice, right?
On Auschwitz, I was working Shabbos just like any other day, of course.
Let's say forced,
In ghetto, I was from the ones that I didn't have to work. I didn't work. I was hiding myself. I didn't work in Shabbos. During the day, I didn't go out, because I would say a young person like that, what are you doing in the street? But towards the evening, I'm after work already. So I went out in the ghetto, in the streets, because I remember 2 times I went out for this Avrohom Mandelbaum, his son, to bring him to our house. You know how many families had to share one apartment? You only got a part for a room. Not even a room, apart from a room.
Martin, did you have any questions you wanted to direct?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious if you have any friends that lived through the experience with you that perhaps lost their faith during this time, and do you still maintain contact with them?
I tell you, with people that lost the people that lost their faith, I tell you, I don't remember now at the moment that I can tell you from here in America, people that lost their faith. I know people in Eretz Israel I don't want to say them, mention their names because they have brothers, El Eden. And I know the Uncle Posno, that he is out completely. So much so when the Baba Varuf, the living his own son, that we were in Eretz Yisrael, which I went along with him. Not the last time, once before, because here I had a show. I couldn't go the last time, but I couldn't go. Once before, which is about exactly 3 years ago. Exactly 3 years ago, I was in Eretz Yisrael, like this date. It was beginning of January. It was right after the season that it was a proper time for me to leave the business. I could close even the business and go. And we went along. I was there for 2 weeks. They didn't even bother to come to see the rabbi. And I would never think that it's possible, because they lost their faith. They lost their faith. That's what I was. But I never met them.
Is that understandable to you, or you find that hard to understand?
They wonder, they can't understand how we have the faith. But you must say, listen to this. I tried to mention that before, that we thought, after he got liberated, what it was, this can never come back, never, never, never in life. And came back, b'yoser ois v'toikef. Even some respect, even stronger than it was before. The organization for the yeshiva now in our time, it's much stronger and better than it was before the war. Not everyone in my generation will admit it, but believe me, I'm objective. I know what it was before the war. I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was in the 20s, but in the late 30s, I remember just as well as all the others, maybe even better. Because I know that I remember. It was good, wasn't bad, now it's even better. Because the organization, one learns from the other. It's kinnet safram. What I mean by that, if we see by a Litvish yeshiva that something good, we learn from them. Just as well, the Litvish yeshiva, they learn some things from the Chassidish yeshivas. It goes out, which is a very good thing. From the Das, for our religion, it's a good thing. I see how my children, Baruch Hashem, I was zocher to have Kinder b'nai Torah, einig l'shein b'nai Torah. My grandson was here, he is a Talmud Chochem Meflik. He is not the only one, I have others also are einig. The yeshiva, the organization is very solid and very good, and they love to learn and they want to learn just because it's a mitzvah. And it came back where, look at, you know.
What would you, let me just say, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren who was yet to be born, I mean, what would you like them to, lessons to draw from your experience?
I tell you, they are aware, the children, they don't know all the stories. It's the first time which I'm sitting down and telling my story as I just did now to you for hours. I never sat down with my children and told them. At first, when my wife told them, Hessie called, my daughter Hessie, that what she wants me to tell you, what you asked her I should do. I said, no, I'm not going to sit down for hours and tell a story. I have no patience for that, I'm not going to do it. And while I was telling to my wife, I said, who should tell? I'm thinking it over. If I'm not going to tell, I see my generation from the survivors. I was from the younger one. Great majority of the survivors were older than me. And younger for me, they didn't survive. If I'm going to keep the stories to myself, a few stories I started when I was sitting in Shiva, as I said before. I told my children, because I was so heartbroken I lost my brother. I said, children, I'm going to tell you what I never told you before. They never heard from me the story what I told you with this long son. for the other stories. Tzvi, I told once, so Tzvi asked me, tell me a story from the country. I told him this story. But I didn't go like spending the time, I'm just with you people. Natalia, the more I was thinking of it, not only that I should be willing to tell you, I'm obligated. Maybe that's why I'm around. Here, let me just tell you a story. Not a story, just a few words. My wife told my great-grandchildren, I have, Hashem, 5 great-grandchildren. Not too many people. My parents didn't live long enough to be zeicher to have great-grandchildren. My wife and I, we were zeicher to have great-grandchildren. The last week, my wife was very upset, and twice a week, she used to go every day to watch the children, that Hindi, our granddaughter, should be able to go out of the house and to go teaching. 2 good things. Number one, not to be cooped up by the children all the time, to get away from it. And they can use the couple dollars because they have fortune. She was 19, and suddenly she got triplets. They should live in the US. As a young man came to me, you started with a bank. And I have the picture there, if you're going to look at them. Very unusual. I must say, maybe I think so because they're my great-grandchildren. So my wife, now they said it's unfair to ask her to 4 days a week my wife should go to watch the children for a couple hours. She should be able to go out to teach. My granddaughter and my grandson, the one married our granddaughter, said it's unfair to ask from Bobby. They should come twice a week. Is there 2 days? So for the last 2 years, my wife, Monday and Tuesday, she goes to watch the children, and for a couple hours that Hindi, our granddaughter, is going out and she teaches in a girls' school, English. So my wife, and they're going to kindergarten already, and she's only watching the boy, which is 2 years old. When they come back, they're giving gas snake and they're talking. So the one asked her, Bobby, why are you sitting like that? So she said, because you know that the Arabs are killing Jewish people in Eretz Yisrael in Israel. So it happened last Friday. Hindi called up my wife, she told her about something not important. So my wife says, you put down the telephone, open up the radio and listen to the radio, because it was the air alarm again. So she opened up and she was listening. So one of the triplets said, Mommy, what are you listening? You're listening what the Arabs are doing to the Jewish people? They're going to be 4 years old in March. So answering your question, if they know what's going on.
My question was, what would you like them to learn?
I know, you didn't quite ask about Michael. I'm going at the again. Even my grandchildren, they know already what's starting to know already what's going on. Now, as I said before, I never sat down with my children tell the story. If I wouldn't make up my mind that actually I should, even at first I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to spend a couple of hours with people. They're going to say they were going to take a video. Well, I have no patience with them. I never did it. For so many years, I never did it. It's the first time I'm telling my story. I'm sure a lot of things I left out. But as I said, I spent maybe too long for you when I started telling this story. I never said, here and there I told them a story, this and that. But not the real bad stories, what happened when I was sitting in Shiva, the 2 brothers, Spielmann. The name is Spielmann, the family name is Spielmann. And we daven together now in Babel. one of their sisters, there were 11 children at home, and the two the youngest survived. One of this Mrs. Barber, what I mentioned, was the Spielmann's sister. She said to me, let's say goodbye to each other, because that's the end. We are not, never again we are going to see each other. And when she's staying with her children, this one wants this one wants this, and the children didn't know what's waiting for them. But the mother knew. I told them, I couldn't put myself together to tell them that I said goodbye to their sister. The circumstances what I said goodbye to them. When they came to see me, I told them, no, they didn't come together, each one separate. I told them,
What?
Actually answer to the things that's on my list.
Covered almost everything I was going to ask you. Is there any closing remark that you just want to leave us with? Or?
From the children, say something.
I tell you something.
The kettle is off. Okay.
Yeah. I am a very, very blessed person. I am very, very grateful to Hashem that I got a wife, but I do have. She should live and be well. She was always behind me. We had, I don't have to tell you, coming to a new country, not knowing the language. She was pregnant with our daughter, with our first child. Our first child, Suri, should live and be well, on September the 3rd, 47, Yudches Elul, Tashayin. She was born. She didn't have an easy pregnancy. She never had her pregnancy, but she suffered. She didn't have easy pregnancies. She couldn't come out and help me. I tried, I didn't have, because I was in the yeshiva before the war. So I was open for suggestions. What should I tell you? When I brought home the first time $40 for a week work, lived in Bronzeville, she managed to save $2.50. The next Monday she took $2.50 and she went to Pitkin Avenue, was a bank. She opened up a saving account. In those days you could open the $2.50 account. You didn't have to have $1,000. Whatever I made, she managed to save $1. Then next week I made $50. So she was saving $3 already. We had a child already. She was always behind me. I'm very grateful. I have 4 most wonderful children. I have 3 daughters and a son. And I don't have to tell you, life has its ups and downs. And I tell you, I must mention that too. I got to be grateful to this country of the United States of America. I can't forget that. I started with my wife. Look, a person like me, what did I have to offer, my wife and I? What did we have to offer the United States to let us in this country? Nothing. Truman was president, and he let a certain amount of people let in this country and told us, come in and do whatever you please and live. Find yourself work, find yourself an apartment. There were Jewish organizations. They helped us. At first when we came, then we got a furnished room in Bronzeville, and that gave us a couple dollars a week to be able to live. I got to mention. But I want you to know, when I made my first $30 this week, and they sent us the check because they didn't know that I made $30, I took the check, I brought it back, I don't need it anymore. I'm making money. How much do you make? I said, the first week I made $30, the second week I made $40. I said, all right, I'll take it with you. And the first one to bring back a check. That's it. And I tell you, when my rabbi, the Baba Baruch should live and be well, when he heard that, he was laughing. He told everyone that said, I'm Lava Malki. He told them, and he called me the Yeki. The Yeki, you know, and Yeki means somebody who comes from Germany, that he observes every little thing. I didn't have to do it, he thought. But anyway, that's our way of living. And I tell you, 20-some years back, I was in the fur business with my brother for 20-some years. I didn't see no future after we married off our 3 daughters. By the way, our son is the youngest. Our son, he was in the Chassidish yeshiva, a Chassidish Ingerman. He wouldn't go to college. And I wanted to look around what I can do that he should be able to make a living. And I saw no future in the fur business. I said to my brother, I want to go out. I want to look around for something. I didn't have anything else yet. I had a talk with my wife, and I said, and I never liked the fur business. I was in the retail business. I went out, I told my wife, I'll make it very short. I told her, I want to go out, I don't like the fur business. I said, I'll stay behind you. I'll help you out. She went out and she took some courses of bookkeeping. After a couple of weeks, she got a job for bookkeeping. She was holding the job for 10 years. In my transition period, till I got in the watch business, till I could make a living, I don't have to tell you, it was very hard. I didn't make a living in it. She was working for 10 years, and then she wasn't feeling so good, and she had gedacht, and I made a living already. Now I'm with my son in the watch business. I am not a rich man, but I have panusa nice. I can live nicely. And so is my son. Our son has now 6 children. They have a nice apartment, and they're going to have Bezos Hashem a house too. And for this, I'm very grateful.
Okay. So, continue to have a lot of nachas.
Well, thank you.
Good success for all your family. Thank you very much. Okay. Now you can call. Okay.